Welcome to the Winners and Losers Show. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank. I'm the host of the show. We are doing another big one, another Emmy Award-winning, Oscar-nominated episode of the Winners and Losers program. Crazed leftist rambling is mostly what it is. I'm going to get into some personal stuff. I mean, I don't know, not really. Didn't really plan on doing that, but I do. I mean, just based on all previous patterns, I'm going to. Because who tunes in for that shit? It's obnoxious. But we're talking about the Trump indictment a little bit. That's a big news story. Motherfucker got arrested. He's getting arrested next Tuesday for the second time this year. 2 arrests. Also found liable for a sexual abuse or assault or whatever the hell with that one defamation case. So looking good. Looking real good, America. And that's, of course, the standard bearer of capitalism's right side, the Republicans, just a real proud bunch. So not an accident that their street gang, one of their fascist street gangs, one of the more well-known ones, is called the Proud Boys, belied by, of course, their hatred towards people who aren't straight white dummies, using the word pride to describe a month in which we show support and pride and love towards marginalized folks, our queer friends, LGBTQ. Okay. Let's see. So we're gonna get into this. What do we got? What else? Another story. Oh, Chris Christie jumped in. I only was gonna play one clip of him shitting on Jared Kushner and Ivanka, but then I started looking up other stuff and I went down a little bit of a Christie rabbit hole and found Trump making fun of him for being fat. So, of course, I got to play that. And so I got a bunch of Christie clips. That might be a thing. What else? We got some guy. I thought this guy was a politician, but we'll get to that. Anyway, describing his love for his trans child, which is going to bring up the notion of wokeness. I've come up with a definition. Okay. Are you excited? Are you ready for my definition of what that means? People are like, "What? How do you define woke? What does woke mean?" There's that conversation happening. Conversation is a polite way of describing that. It's all horrifying and terrifying and a very, very dangerous, or very obvious to me at least. But it should be. It's a very prominent signifier that we're heading towards really dangerous stuff: fascism, violence, and could get far, far worse. Let's hope we don't get there. And also, Jon Hamm is getting involved. He did the voiceover for a commercial for a candidate. So we're going to listen to that too. I have a list. That's why I know what I'm about to talk about, because usually I don't have this much prep done, at least in terms of being able to remember. Yeah, things are looking okay. Got my Pete Buttigieg clips out. I did an animation for one of them. Actually, no, that's not even a Pete Buttigieg clip. I did an animation for a clip from last week where I told the story about how I poured fresh bone broth down the sink because I didn't put didn't put the pan down, just the strainer into the sink, because I'm a fucking moron. So while editing that yesterday, I didn't want it to just be all Buttigieg all the time. You know, what is this, the Buttigieg household? No, it's the fun household. Okay, get into bed with me, ladies. That's what I say before bar kick. They throw me out of the bar. So I was like, it was a fun little story. If I'm trying to do stuff to try to get new listeners via these clips, I have a lot of I want to say expertise. That's not the right word, but this is what I did at the Young Turks and at the Jimmy Dore show. Is I made clips and titled them and put thumbnails out, and I had it at two. This is like 2014, way back when. I had 2 certifications from YouTube. Like, they sent me a piece of paper that said certification on it, one for digital rights management, and the other one for audience growth and development. So you'd think I'd be an expert, but none of my output reflects that. I have been paid professionally to do it. And it's actually something I was talking about last week, where I started talking about my identity crisis regarding this show. And then I just went spinning off into talking about the bone broth story. So here we are doing exactly both things all at once. But I am quite happy with how the bone broth animation came out. It's really not much, but it did take a lot longer as I was working on clips yesterday. And I knew going in, I was like, oh, I could do this, and I could just do the intro, and I could do all 4 minutes. I could animate. That's really not that much extra work. It is, but it isn't. So I only did the first 30 seconds, but then there's a fire in the sky animation I created. So I had to draw like a alien hand holding a piece of paper, because the joke is that those aliens that show up to get the guy, DB Sweeney, amazing actor, that when that syrup pours on his face when he's under the table, oh, my heart. Um, the aliens are doctors, and they're bringing an insurance bill to him, and that's why he's so scared. That's the joke. A comment on America's rapacious healthcare system. So I was working on that. That took a lot yesterday and burned a bunch. But I'm also kind of gotten, every time I do that, I'm like, okay, I just did a lot of the. It's not going to take as much energy next time, because now I've got Character Animator set up a little bit better, and I can like find the files I need and stuff. I even found my Pope hat. My character Hank has a Pope hat that's really funny. And I was going to make him wear that, but I just didn't. It would have messed up my rigging in my thing, so I chose not to. Anyway, we're making decisions. We're making moves. We're making it happen. We're watching Instagram videos of industrial accidents, Instagram videos of guys doing card tricks, Instagram videos of women doing this, moving their body for 7 to 9 seconds. That's what's happening around here. So check out that video. It's I'm just check out the animation. It's this face in animated form in front of the dungeon. I think I need to create some kind of 3D or more of a 3D effect of that dungeon wall. I want to build out a kind of little animated universe around this show. And I've kind of been doing that over the years. We used to do a bunch of animation stuff on SuckProfessor, also including animation in like documentaries that I want to make. Is another kind of reason that's a thing I'm trying to hold on to, trying to expand and move towards the forefront of my operating consciousness in order to be able to produce stuff and justify why I'm asking people to support on Patreon, patreon.com/winners and losers. I really do need the help. I'm really looking to earn your $1 or $3 or $2 or $5 or $10. We did get a new listener or new patron, which is so awesome, but maybe someday that'll all work out. I don't know. It feels pathetic to be begging, even though every show has to be. It's not like I have to talk you into the idea that I need money to survive and that this shit takes hours and hours of work. But I think consistency is the best thing for that. So the bone broth, the identity crisis relates to basically like, since I know this whole YouTube clip thing, and it works over time. It works with consistency. I'm getting foggy-eyed. I had the goddamn window closed because I get self-conscious about, and there's motherfuckers out there doing construction. I'm turning up the fan here. Yeah, it's bad right now, actually. They're doing hammering and sawing, and my autistic hyperfocus is being very, very, very challenged, and it's not been a pleasant morning, to be honest. I'm just fantasizing about the future where I maybe have my setup all done without that kind of thing. And I can have better temperature control too, because I'm sweating. But hey, much love to people who make noise outdoors. I do woodworking on my balcony, and that can be loud, and I feel bad for the noise that it creates. Another reason I need to get the fuck out of Los Angeles, patreon.com/winners and losers. The more people can support me there, the better. Well, someday I'll be able to make a big move and get the fuck out of this hellhole. Not that I think LA's a hellhole, it's just that I am not fit for cities anymore. I'm done with living in cities. I don't want to live in fucking cities anymore. Yeah, good times. Great oldies. There you go. So the identity crisis is really like when I'm making these videos and preparing and stuff, am I doing a podcast where I talk and talk and talk, and should I keep it under an hour? Should I just go forever like I usually do? Last week was 2.5 hours, 2 hours, almost 3, which I find like bad idea for gaining new listeners. Or am I producing videos and you're going to listen to me do videos? That's the kind of thing I'm kind of in that space, because I probably have a better chance of attracting new people through videos, through doing clips. That's the way that you can kind of tap into the algorithm in different ways. I've had a couple, like I had an Anderson Cooper one that I didn't even think was a good idea to put up, and it got like 800 views, which for a tiny channel is way more than the normal 10 to 40 views that these videos are getting right now. Yeah. So, but I just kind of spiritually don't want to. Maybe spiritually is not the right word, but when I fantasize about this all working really well, I picture myself doing like 2 podcasts a week, and then paying attention to the world the rest of the time, and maybe having time to work on other projects, woodworking videos, and documentary stuff. And now there's a cat meowing. That's fun. Always nice. It's good. I have a cat. Anybody wants to adopt a cat? I listed her on a pet website. I can send you the link. She's fucking awesome. $400 is what I'm charging. I've spent over $1,000, so it's a fucking steal. And I built a custom litter box. It's awesome. Just that alone should be $200. No, that can't. That cat just pushed me right over the limit with the hammering and the cat meowing. There it goes. There goes the autism. Just fucking. And I heard my first firework of the season. It's like what, June 9th. So we're already doing fireworks. A little bit less than 30 days out from July 4th, and then it'll also be another 30 or 40 days of fireworks, because cities are hell, especially when you have noise sensitivity issues. Maybe I could strap the cat to a firework. No, that's not obvious. And then it meows up there. Would be the bit would be it meows in the air, not that it is exploded into bits. That would be terrible. Oh boy, I sound like a mean person. So do I do videos? Do I just do like little YouTube clips? And there's a whole thing there. There's a whole community. There's a whole ecosystem of how that works, and it's still somewhat happening. Maybe even incorporating TikToks. Hey guys, going live on the podcast right now. What? It's been 7 seconds. Bye. Stuff like that. Or do I do like this kind of long form podcasts? And then I also look at Bill Burr show, the Monday morning podcast, and he just turns. I'm sure he preps a little bit, but he just talks for an hour and then stops talking. I could totally fucking do that. I've been doing that already. It's already been 4 hours since I started this podcast. I know it doesn't feel like that much, does it? That's how you know it's good. I kind of just want to do that. All this prep, all this shit, it sucks. It's annoying. The whole goddamn reason I like comedy is attractive, although I definitely put in hours and hours and hours into the work, but I don't want to do all that work. Or at least I want to do the work that feels meaningful. The hard part for me in terms of like forcing myself to do stuff is the stuff that doesn't feel meaningful, even though it's completely necessary, like the editing and the publishing. And like, obviously I need to do that or else none of this gets heard. But, and it's not like I think I'm decent at it, although I'm not thrilled with my, I've been doing like a bright thumbnail and then like a subdued kind of low saturation thumbnail, darker, and desaturated yellow. I'm here to report. Oh boy, that's not a good color. It looks like like baby shit green, like a kind of a brownish greenish yellow, and it really looks bad. So, but I did it because it's following the color scheme. And then the next color, this episode is going to be green, and I'm going to do the rainbow. And so on YouTube, when you go to the video section, you'll see purple, red, orange, green, rain, yellow, rain, and it'll all be rainbow flows through my color thing. I don't know. I think it's pretty. I love it. The rainbow's a beautiful thing. We're all such a lucky creature to have these photon receptors that allow us to see these magnificent things. Of course, the ancestors came up with weird magic explanations for the world we lived in because they had rainbows to look at and lightning. You're sitting there in your clay hut and a fucking meteorite goes right through your grandmother's skull. What, you're going to be like, well, I know what meteorites are. No, they didn't figure that shit out until 1950. Not true. But they had to come up with stories and things to explain stuff. And then those mythologies become part of the power structure. And then you can tell people to do stuff. Yeah. So identity crisis, that's just not the right phrase for that. But I am kind of dialing that in. I also think that maybe I should just like do more podcasts every day, maybe like 3 or 4 days a week, and just wake up, settle in a little, not just as soon as I went out, just like, oh, hey guys. I had a dream that I was working in a beta testing internally for like a software company that made video games. And then some lady came by and started sexually harassing me, but I was totally into it. She starts put her hands somewhere that she probably shouldn't have because it's inappropriate, but I was not objecting. There you go. This is yeah, man. Woke up way too soon on that one. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, podcast. Maybe just like just open up the can and let it rip. I think I'm a radio guy. if I'm really kind of being, I just want to sit, chat, talk, go home, work on my man cave, which I don't. My man cave would be more that I just have like a nice cutting board in my kitchen for me and my gaggle of kitchen wives who are all polyamorous witches who yeah. All right. Okay, getting distracted. We should get into it. I did. Oh, quick story. This guy comes by my apartment building, and he gathers up cans. He's collecting out of the garbage for recycling, and he's a super nice dude. I saw him. It's been for a few years now. I've been like bringing him cans if I can because we my roommate and I churn through some sodas and some soda supplies. So I save the cans for him, and when I see him, I go, "Oh, hey, hang on, I'll go get you some cans." And I try to give him other metals. He doesn't speak English, and there was one time where I was trying to use Google Chat to be like, "Do you take computer parts and stuff? Like, will that help you with money?" I want to just give him money. I don't have money, and I actually do want to buy him something. Actually, this is something I genuinely really need to do. Is I want to buy him a headlamp. This is my little one that I can't get rid of because these go on your hat. And then I can give them. You can buy these on Amazon for like they're not that expensive, but this one is actually a weird. I just have to keep this one because they're hard to find. It has a little. The way it bends is perfect for me. I use this for woodworking a lot and all kinds of stuff. But I want to buy him a gift like that. He's super nice, and he gets so grateful. He is such a response to grateful. And I was trying to get, and I don't think I just had it. But then a neighbor came by, and it really seemed like I was being like a male Karen. Is that the right way you're supposed? What do they call male Karens? Marins? See, this is stupid. This is like gender is ridiculous. I just felt like, oh no, I hope he doesn't think I'm trying to like give him more things. Although that now that I'm saying it, it's also like I was trying to get my garbage out. But it would be better for him to have the recycling income. I would love a world where this poor fucking guy doesn't have to come by and dig for cans. He's such a sweet soul. I love it. So whenever I bring this up, he goes, "Oh," and he kind of, and then I saw him the other day. I went up and I parked my car because I was on the way out, and I let him into the thing, and I'll wait for him so I could let him out. Although he can actually go around the building, but I go inside and I grab this bag of cans I got, waiting for him, and and he's like, because he knows I'm kind of gonna. That's like my thing now. We got it. We're established. Our relationship parameters have been somewhat set, and he gets his hands up, kind of like a praise, like like thank you, like sort of going in for a high five, but he was sort of not doing that. And I wanted a high five. I haven't had human touch in years. And I felt like it doesn't mean anything if you don't connect. But he didn't really seem to be coming in for it, And I just sort of, and I'm large. He's a little dude. He's like 5'5" probably. And I'm a big old 6'3" with long legs. My legs are 5'7". And right nipples, that's where my hips are. Right underneath. I know you can't see it. I'm like a Tim Burton character. And I went in and I just used one hand and I went for it and I just popped him on the hand. And he's wearing gloves. And I didn't feel any liquids, but I immediately regretted that. And because he was kind of like, you don't, like, you could tell his body language was like, you don't have to come all the way. I don't think he wanted me to do that. But I think he was protecting me because those gloves he wears are because he rummages through garbage for a living. And of course it was fine that we don't have to actually physically connect. So I slapped the guy's dirty ass gross glove. And then I went for his walk. I've been doing my exercise. And then I was like, how am I supposed to scratch my eye in comfort now? You got to rub your face. People touch their face all the time. You ever see those studies where they put crap on your hands and then suddenly it's like your face is just covered with the crap with like a black light. So yeah, I love that guy though, man. He's such a sweetheart to him. You can just feel his good energy. It sucks. I hope he's okay. I feel like such a piece of shit. Yeah. Oh, I already got the article on screen there. That's okay. That's fine. So yeah, quick update to well, Pat Robertson died. I'm not going to get into that. Good. Far too late. Horrible person. Made his planet worse. Really rich. So now he's in heaven. Tickets are expensive up there. And he is where he belongs, next to God. Without any 9/11 causing homosexuals around to haunt his dreams. Just God, who's not responsible for anything. The guy who's caused literally everything to ever die ever. He's up there forever now with him, doing what he loves, which is selling buckets of food to terrified, confused Americans. So it's real. It's real. Heaven is real. So he's dead. Apple came out with a new thing. Do you guys see that? Any VR heads out there? Let me know in the comments below. I've used a few of the different Apple stuff. I'm not going to get into this right now, but $3,500 for their mask thing. It looks cool. I watched a couple of videos. The best guy on YouTube for that is Marcus, Marqes. I don't know his last name, but just search Marcus Tech Reviews. He's like giant. He's got a massive, he's been doing it forever. He's so good at what he does. He's awesome. He has a great breakdown of it. But that's an interesting topic. I think VR is a subject of intrigue, I guess. I was a Virtua Boy, or at least somebody had a Virtua Boy. I remember trying that out when I was a kid. It had red plastic. So eating disorder helpline takes down Chatbot. I did this last week. I don't think I did a good job reporting on this, by the way. And it's not even called reporting. What the fuck am I saying? But this National Eating Disorder Association, in response to 4 people forming a union, fired the union and said, oh, we're going to use a chatbot. And now they've had to get rid of the chatbot because of harmful advice, here as seen on theguardian.com. National Eating Disorder Association has also been under criticism for firing 4 employees in March who formed a union. The National, we're recording. The National Eating Disorder Association. Okay, we already know this part. Oh, the chatbot was named Tessa. They gave it a pretty friendly name. Tessa's a really friendly name. If I needed help from someone and a stranger, I would want someone named Tessa. I'll tell you what I wouldn't want. Barry. Bill Hader, you've ruined the name. Barry. Great show, by the way. Great show. I would totally watch it again if we dated. I would love to start it over with you. So Tessa's been, or Nada's been under criticism for firing. Okay, we know that. Members of the union, the Helpline Associates United, say they were fired days after the union election was certified, and they filed with the National Labor Relations Board. Tessa, which Nada claims was never meant to replace the helpline workers, almost immediately ran into problems. Kabunk? Who could have seen this coming? How could this happen? On Monday, activist Sharon Maxwell posted on Instagram that Tessa offered her healthy eating tips and advice on how to lose weight. The chatbot recommended a calorie deficit of 500 to 1,000 calories a day and weekly weighing and measuring to keep track of weight. Yeah, just eat a lot less, you fat ass. That's basically what it told her. If I had accessed this chatbot when I was in the throes of my eating disorder, I would not have gotten help for my ED. If I had not gotten help, I would not still be alive today, Maxwell wrote. It is beyond time for Nada to step aside. Damn right. Nada itself has reported that those who diet moderately are 5 times more likely to develop an eating disorder, while those who restrict extremely are 18 times more likely to form a disorder. So this thing was telling people, this person, to do pretty severe restriction. Average calories is somewhere around 2,000. You see that figure, 2,200. And so it was doing the things that are making people far more likely to develop disorders, to be worse. And if you're already in touch with this outfit, you're down that road anyway. You're already heading in that direction, or have gone well down it. It came to our attention last night that the current version of the Tessa chatbot running the body positivity program, the soulless consciousness text generator that you replaced actual humans with, was running the body positivity program. May have given information that was harmful and unrelated to the program, Nada said in a public statement on Tuesday. We are investigating this immediately and have taken down that program until further notice for a complete investigation. All right. Till further notice. Well, we're all on. Okay, here's a blog post. Yeah, we got into this last week. Abby Harper is an employee who was part of that union. They'd seen a 107% increase in calls and messages since the start of the pandemic. Man, reports of suicidal thoughts, self-harm, and child abuse and neglect nearly tripled. The Union Harbor wrote, asked for adequate staffing and ongoing training to keep up with the needs of the hotline. We got all kinds of mental distress, people calling for help, but we're just going to throw the cheapest option we have. Let's just let the computer talk to them. Hook them up to the Commodore 64 and see what happens. The irresponsibility, the lack of the casting aside humanity of these kinds of things is just amazing. So they took it down. I'm not sure what the status of the union is, but maybe we don't need to base a society around dehumanizing people and increasing stress. We should abolish, in the sense of creating conditions in which the likelihood of any of this thing being needed is minimal. Like, what's causing people to seek coping mechanisms and coping skills that might not be as healthy? This sort of underpins, and I'm stepping away from specifically eating disorders, in a broader sense, how stress is so profitable. There's stress dividends. This whole society benefits from people having issues, because when you're trapped or stuck or slowed down or delayed in developmental stages by stress, you aren't as likely to stand up for yourself in negotiations. Basically, leverage. Everything always comes back to leverage. When you talk about power, you're talking about leverage. And someone struggling with whatever it is that might be in their world, even if it's just exhaustion, meaning like they don't necessarily have to have an eating disorder or some other thing, that benefits the bosses. Stress dividends. So there's a conspiracy, and a negative inverse conspiracy to not fix stress. In addition to the notion that I'm sure they do know that the more stress you can cause, the better off it is for the bosses. Their solution to inflation is to increase unemployment, is to make people have worse lives. Although not that just a job is always the precise answer to every single problem, which we all pretend it is. It's just connecting what humans do really well, which is work together for the betterment of everybody or for the selfish greed of just a few people. And that's the world we've got. So, all right, keep going. This video, gonna have to put on the headphones. I thought this was like a congressperson of some sort when I first saw this. So it took me a little bit this morning to kind of figure that out. But this is a guy, conservative Republican. We've got a tweet here. Let me zoom in a little bit on Trump indictments is going nuts on Twitter. We're going to get to that. David Heath on Twitter wrote, this conservative Republican who described himself as, quote, anti-woke as you can get, they're competing, warns Ohio lawmakers that a bill to ban gender-affirming care for teenagers is appalling. He said he learned the complexities of the issue from raising a transgender son. Well, let's withhold too much ire for this man. But the classic Republican move is to have zero compassion or understanding of something until it happens to them, until they deal with it in a personal way. Not that necessarily guarantees that they're going to engage it in a way that shows maturity or growth. But like Dick Cheney, had a lesbian daughter, and so he was nominally in more support of rights for gay people. Which is completely fucking baffling to me that you could not be in support of rights for everybody, for all rights for everybody, for liberation from the disgusting system we have of categorizing people into groupings where some are favored over others. Which is what, when you're woke, when you're anti-woke, that word is so thrown around. I'm going to share my definition after we watch this guy, but the whole bit of supporting anti-wokeness is to keep a system where categorizing humans is how you disseminate unequal distribution of dignity and rights. That's not even my definition. That's a pretty good one, I'd say. Definition is a stupid concept for this thing in terms of the discourse, because definitions are fences. They can hold you in prisons of sorts, metaphorically, obviously. All right, let's listen to this guy.
I love my son dearly, just as I know many of you with children do yours. I'm a Republican, a Christian, and as anti-woke as you can get. No offense to the Democrats on the committee. My son is also a Christian. I have watched my son transform over the past 11 years into the son and man any father would be proud to have. I watched the debate about transgender people and attempts to ban gender-affirming care, and to be candid, I'm appalled. I see it breaking into this left-right thing, and it's really not. There are Republicans, there are Christians who have transgender children. The people wanting to ban gender-affirming care have no idea what it is like to be transgender or to have a transgender child. This is not something that's done on a whim. It's a deep-rooted dysphoria that, yes, even has spiritual elements to it. My son has a masculine soul, and he said he's felt this way since he was 5. He tried so hard to overcompensate and try to fit into being a feminine young woman by participating in beauty pageants. For years, he tried to be a young woman, and it didn't ease the ache and sadness in his soul. And it was only until he was able to transition to be a young man did the light in his eyes return. You've got to go easy on this. This is a terrible bill. This is not the simple issue being portrayed by the anti-trans people.
There you go. Masculine soul. Poor kid had to try to conform to be fit into a box he didn't feel comfortable fitting into. And this guy had the decency to allow a child to have to be heard. And he, I don't know what their whole story was, but it probably took some time necessarily. I don't think like part of the gender issue, in my view, is that it's so rooted in your earliest experiences when your mother and your father, your parents or whoever you're closest to while you're a baby, before your being is even finished cooking, it gets rooted into, not that the strict binary of our messed up culture does, but that the idea that there are that mother and father are different types of persons, although you shouldn't necessarily experience love differently. I'm not trying to say that, but that it's some of the earliest programming, earliest conditioning that we experience. And then out of that forms all kinds of behavior that is modeled by your parents, modeled by the culture, and modeled in ways that you don't even perceive, that set forth the concepts of how gender and how the roles that you're supposed to fit into is part of the strict binary, as well as how you're supposed to police it, not just on yourself, but police it in others. When I was a kid, we would play a game called Smear the Queer. We would run around, 8-10-year-olds. I grew up in the 80s, screaming that smear the queer, and then you'd throw a ball, and whoever got the ball was the queer, and you had to tackle them. That's part of the spell casting that is being played. Yeah, I don't think that's done much anymore, but they're using this, and this is all part of this fascistic, dangerous upswell, this violent thing. And it's good that this guy's speaking out. He's like a white guy in an old white guy in a suit with some standard white guy haircut, who's calling himself he's more credible to people who need to be persuaded or something, although it's going to take a long time to unwind a lot of this. I was thinking too about this, the whole silliness around Tucker Carlson reporting on the sexiness of the M&Ms, and this isn't really so much about transgender stuff. It's related, but it's more about whiteness in general, and the victimization that's inherent in being in race supremacy, especially in white race supremacy. So like the M&Ms, the Mr. Potato Head, these sort of things are sort of floated out, and they're absurd, and leftist shows love to pick up on them because they're so easy to make fun of, and they're probably pretty good for clicks, and they work with the algorithm, and they're upset because Mr. Potato Head, I don't even remember what the issue was. They took away his little pee-pee. Was there one? There was something. Maybe he wasn't they degendered him or something. It's a potato, a plastic potato with a butt full of body parts. A dangerous person. Okay, beat him up, Ant-Man. Get on it, Paul Rudd. I watched the thing about Ant-Man. I didn't realize Ant-Man was such a weird. Whatever. Why am I going off on Ant-Man? And as stupid as all that is, and it's easy for us to say, look at them, they're just idiots. They think that matters. But what they're doing is they're rooting like a truffle. They're sniffing deep down. They're going back in time to provoke the feeling of victimization by pinging memories. They're going back to childhood toys people played with who are of the audience that they're trying to reach. Worrying about Barbie and shit like that, and like there's so like you notice though when they do those types of things, M&Ms being a thing. Although I don't know who had, I guess there's stores for M&Ms. I mean, I don't know what, but that's what I think, that kind of how that mechanism functions. Not that it's, like completely thought through by them, but they have the propagandists, the Tucker Carlsons, the project people, and their numerous gaggles, or their hangers on, the people that just sort of mimic them and kind of like take the messaging and run with it. The way that they all those things, the commonality that they have is that they're provoking the feeling of victimization, and that's a major part of white supremacy. I think a better term than white supremacy, or maybe not a better term, but like another term we should be using, is race supremacy, just to de-white it a little bit, in order for people to just think about like, yeah, I don't want any race supremacy. The whole notion, because we just happen to be it all formed out of the European project of mugging the planet through colonization, colonialism. So good on this guy. I'm not the most effective, or nor have I done as much reading and learning about trans issues. I've evolved on it. I was never like a fuck those people. I wouldn't have done. I'm never one of those. But as it's become more prominent in the last few years, this is dangerous stuff. They want to genocide a group of people, and they're using a playbook that the Nazis used in the 30s. The first book burning was Dr. Hirschfeld. He was a Nazi, or he was not a Nazi. He was a German physician and doctor, and who had done a lot of research and had very open, accepting practices for queer folks. So the history of all that is just fascinating too. And then you get into the witch burnings, going back for a little further, the amount of witch burnings that had happened in the those were just crazy. I haven't really read. I did read a little bit of Sylvia Federici, who has a book about it, but all the enforcement of strict categories, though, if you step out of line, and we can use hysteria to discipline those who are offline, who are not in the right realm. I generally come across as very like standard dumb white guy, but I've never felt like I fit into anything ever. I think I've always sort of been a perpetual outsider. It's a trait or a characteristic very common to autistic people. So I kind of see this stuff with a bit of a distant viewpoint, but it doesn't mean that I'm not obviously influenced by things and subject to the conditioning that this culture puts into people. So yeah, it's really rotten though. It's really sick. So we can't be equivocating on whether we support our trans brothers and sisters or not. They're under severe threat, and my heart breaks for how much fear it has. And they're going to go after. They are going. I mean, all this pride stuff like against Target and whatever is all anti-gay, They're going to go after gay marriage. I wouldn't be stunned to go after interracial marriage. Like, we're just trying to rebuild the mythological past that our maniacal white supremacist society is built on. It's really fucked up. So good on this guy. Maybe he's changed some opinions. It certainly belies, I imagine, I'm just going to assume these people watching, I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just basing it on, but like, hope the media that's feeding this is some of the worst people on the planet, meaning they're just terrible, terrible people that are doing it for the precise benefit of the wealthy, because it's also engaging culture war rather than the economic issues and the structural issues that need to be challenged. So, okay. Oh, woke definition. I was kind of trying to get to that. Here's my woke definition. I was just on my hike. I was thinking about this. All right, I wrote it down. I feel weird reading this, but the way it's used is because it's always, people are using it willy-nilly, political candidates are vowing to destroy it, and but they all know what it means. They all know that it means something along, we don't like that black people are having are rights, or getting rights, or having have anything close to rights, that we don't like that people who make us uncomfortable are visible. There's all kinds. There was whatever. You don't need to hear me recount all that, because I certainly won't do a good job of it. But here's my definition: when the narrow selfishness of white supremacy isn't reflected back at you. So they want to see the world, and this is what they pine for. This is because they've been taught that this is the resource of white supremacy. If you think of it like an asset, your whiteness was a resource that you had that others didn't. And part of it requires, because one of the root functions of it is to always be a victim, is that the world is even Trump pretends he's a big victim. Elon Musk acts like he's a victim, that the world's not fair to the world's richest person. And so you need to have that reinforced. There's a selfish narcissism to it. It's kind of like collective narcissism. And what they expect, because what used to be there, although not necessarily in perfect delivery, not like in full 100% purity, but that's the goal, is that you expect that to be reified by everything around you. If you see a black person in the past, you know that person belongs to someone who could fire your dad or something, a wealthy, rich, white piece of shit, some respected person, or but no, that was taken away. And now they have to respect that person as a human, which feels like an affront. That's the loss of a resource. So they expect the world to reflect their selfishness back to them. It's a maniacal impulse for conformity. That's why they think it's okay to impose religious beliefs on everybody else. They want everybody to conform to them, knowing full well, by the way, that the wealthy are still always going to have access to abortions and stuff like that. So that's how I see it. That's the kind of way that the frame I see it through is through the selfish, the narrow self. I like narrow selfish, but like through the selfishness of race supremacy must always be reflected back on them. So anything that they describe as woke, a children's book that has black people having fun with white people, they're going to call that woke. They're banning books, all kinds of books, just because authors have black or are black, or all kinds of other persuasions. And so it's woke because it's not a mirror. It's not reaffirming that our whiteness is the structural organizing principle of society anymore. And that feels scary to them because they perceive whiteness as a resource, as something that they can rely on for safety and security. And so it's so emotionally close to their sense of safety and health and fear, which means they're always afraid. Because the world we need to build is one where we get rid of this bullshit. And that is taking it away. And that's why the Democrats who don't have any kind of coherent project or plan or explanation for what we're going to do in the future, besides everything, they'll just make sure people like Hilary and Pete Buttigieg get in charge instead of Trump. There's nothing reassuring about any of that. Anybody who's upholding capitalism is upholding racism and misogyny, because it all comes from the same toxic stew of sustaining fear and hierarchy in order to produce stress dividends, like I was saying before. So what's the critical thing that's missing from one of the things upholding or stopping progress? There's lots of things, but is that the narrative that the world could be better, that there's other ways of settings of operating in society, and actually doing something. We're going to see a little bit later of the child poverty rate in America. Which they're just like, yeah, well, that's fine. We'll just let millions more children fall back into poverty because they let the benefit expire that they was offered up during COVID. And so we don't have this. There's no sense that we're working towards something better. There's no sense that we're building a world for human thriving. Instead, it's just like, well, work hard, start a business, get a job, and you'll be one of the lucky ones who can afford to pay for surgery when you need it. Maybe. Look at that guy. He built a big business. He's rich. You didn't. It's your fault. Nothing's going to get better. You're the failure. There's no coherent narrative about the future, about what project to hit. And that's what Republicans offer. Their narrative is to offer, their promise is to offer the past, which never really existed. But the racism was the resource they're looking for. And by that, the comforting presence of structural power that is inherent in race supremacy. So I hope some of that made sense. I honestly have no idea. I feel like that could be like a ramble into a recorder and then like a book chapter or something. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. It's such a crazy. Okay, so let's move on. Jon Hamm. Was there any Jon Hamm fans out there? Mad Men. Saturday Night Live. Your Mom's Dreams. What else has he been in? Well, he's been in this.
Manhood. You'd hope that means courage. Courage isn't something you can give speeches or write a book about. It's not sitting on the sidelines while others sacrifice, or denying help to those who did. It isn't putting people down or trying to control them, or using your own power for profit or ambition. In Missouri, you can't fake courage. We're the show-me state. Courage is something you have to show us. It shows in the working class people that pitch in to help the family next door bankrupted by medical bills. It shows in the Marine who signed up to honor and serve the community that took care of him. It shows when a Missourian stands up to the powerful, when he fights to rebuild his state, to empower people, to secure our future. If you want to be told about manhood, some guy wrote a book about it. But if you want someone to show you courage, send Lucas Kunce to the Senate.
Oh, yeah. It's pronounced Kunce. I saw that and I was like, oh boy. If I were a hack comedian, I would definitely laugh and make jokes about calling it Kunce. I would like to see a Ham Kunce ticket, wouldn't you? Kunce Ham. Vote for Kunce Ham. Doesn't that sound delicious? Kunce Ham, water added. You know what I'm saying there? Wink, wink. Made with real pork. Ooh. No, it's Kunce. Of course it's Kunce. What's his middle name? Asweepe? Nicolas Cage joke, by the way. Okay, Jon Hamm is doing political messaging for an anti-Josh Hawley ad for Lance Kunce. That's pretty good. Does it get any better than that? I'm Jon Hamm. Vote for my friend Lance Kunce. He's courageous. I did wonder why there's one guy. Well, where's the bus system? Why don't we have better transit? I'm so sick of this car culture. This guy's got to walk so far. It's ridiculous. No, maybe just moving from one campus building to the next. Missouri's a weird place. I grew up in Illinois, and I've driven through Missouri once or twice. And you get to those abortion billboards. Although I think Illinois probably has those too. But there's all these like abortion billboards. They're like, this baby wants to be a soldier. This baby wants to get recruited by a military recruiter in a video game in Call of Duty at the age of 14. You don't want to take that away from the baby, do you? Yeah. So good for you, Jon Hamm. So the guy, yeah, courage is this one line.
And to help the family next door bankrupted by medical bills.
Bankrupted by medical bills. I imagine he's referring to something real that Kunce might have helped somebody. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, of course we need to help. We're all trapped in this catacombs, in this dungeon where our neighbors and ourselves are at risk of bankruptcy. A major reason I've never had my beard checked out for the falling outness of it, or this dot on my nose, or having my butt checked for prostates, is I don't have money and I can't make a rich person richer, so I can't access healthcare. There are free clinics and there's free ways of doing it. I'm not saying I've exhausted all those possibilities, but just the fact that we have to struggle so much. I hope this guy's for universal healthcare, free at point of use, and nationalizing health services. And there's just the way we do healthcare is just fucking sick, man. It's absolutely crazy. So I don't know the background of that. I'm not trying to read into it, but he's got Jon Hamm doing messaging for him. That's pretty fucking sweet. I wish I had Jon Hamm talking to me. I'd make him record a cameo from my mom. No, my mom doesn't. I don't think she would know who Jon Hamm was. She'd probably think it's a brand of cat food. All right, let's move on. Mayor Johnson, Chicago friends. I lived in Chicago for about 10 years before I moved to Los Angeles to work for the Young Turks. Biggest fucking mistake of my life. Mayor Johnson announces up to 12 weeks parental leave for Chicago Public Schools employees. Whoa. We live in a country where that's news, where teachers don't get parental leave to go be with their baby. That's not a thing here in this country. It is in some areas, some jobs. If you have a progressive mayor, they might even offer it to you. Let's listen to this guy.
The Chicago Teachers Union, which back in January had pushed CPS to change the policy, but then Mayor Lori Lightfoot insisted it should be a matter of negotiations. But with former CPS teacher Brandon Johnson now mayor, things have changed, and so will the policy.
That's right.
Mayor Brandon Johnson exchanging hugs with a pair of teachers today after announcing plans to grant up to 12 weeks of paid family leave to CPS employees. It gives them the same time off provided to some 32,000 city employees under a policy that went into effect for them last fall.
With the creation of this policy, our teachers and school leaders can not only show up for their students, but for their own families.
The policy would grant leave to eligible employees whether they grow their families through birth, adoption, or fostering, and it would apply to either parent. One teacher getting emotional sharing her story, she had to step away from teaching after the birth of her second child.
6 weeks is just not enough time, no matter what path you had to take to become a parent. The expansion to 12 weeks of paid leave would have transformed my life. It would have enabled me to stay in the field.
CPS CEO Pedro Martinez was asked about the challenge of filling vacancies and how much it might cost the district.
We have had, especially with the pandemic.
How are you going to pay for it? What, we're going to let parents have another 6 weeks with their kids? That's too expensive. What kind of madness is going to result from parents having the bare fucking minimum, in my opinion? I mean, it could be less, I guess. There's always more of a minimum. But this is not something this country guarantees for people, in contrast with other nations. I have some stuff about that. And of course, how are you going to pay for it? Oh my God, what are we going to do? You're going to have to find somebody else to fill in for this person? Oh, what about, it's just like, yeah, don't we want families to be bonded? Don't we want this thing? There's a lot of research showing that babies' brains grow worse. Literally, physically, they don't grow as much when they're disconnected from parents' health. I did the thing, I'm just recalling this right now. It wasn't the child tax credit, I don't think, but it was some sort of, it might actually have been, but it was a research about just the parents having a little bit more money to spend. And it was poor people who were spending on their babies, on their kids. And that alone accounted for a measurable difference in the size of the baby, in the baby's brain, in like the developmental nature of it. Difficult thing to completely quantify. You can't just chop it open and, it's not good eats over here. What a weird reference. But the Republican side loves to chatter about families, values, and families. Of course, they're referring to the oppressive nuclear family that's part of this atomization of the culture and atomization of human beings and sustaining maximum leverage. But if my whole thing about society is that I don't give a shit what you call it. You want to call it communism or socialism, whatever. Those words are actually so overweighted with bullshit and with like misinformation, misunderstanding, and differences of understandings. And my whole premise for my politics rests on parenting. I don't want to be a parent. I never want to be a fucking parent. I just don't want to live in a society filled with assholes. And the best way to avoid a society filled with assholes is to make childhood as low stress as possible. Only the regular stress, like your grandparents dying and stuff like that. I mean, there's still death in life. It hits at different ages depending on your own. But like, we impose so much fucking stress on children, so much stuff, and including child abuse. The vector of the nuclear family is one of the most, the biggest for that. We feed children into these rape dungeons called churches that are just churning through little souls and bodies. And So the point of a society should be to make parenting as easy as possible, so that childhood stress is as low as possible, and with acceptance of the kids who are different. The kids, I didn't learn I was autistic until last year. If I'd known as a baby, as a kid, there were signs. I don't know if it would have been as easy to diagnose necessarily. I'm not of the kind of profile. The more obvious profiles tend to get diagnosed as kids, especially these days, where they weren't looking for it in the early 80s. But I always felt different and out of things. I never felt connected. Had I known, and I'm just saying this is an example of like, this harkens to the gender issue, the gender thing, that where we need to expand all these things, expand the love circle. Like your community needs to become the entire planet. Every single human is stuck on this rock together. And what we do though is we want, we make our parents work all the time, so that itself is a form of neglect. We inject all the stress into work life, so that then that goes into the homes, and people turn to unhealthy coping things like alcohol and drugs and other abusive patterns. So they're less able to disrupt the cycles of abuse that were so fluid or so present in American culture for so long. All the kind of stuff that you'd expect to flow out of a colonial project built around violence and ignorance and paranoia. That's the stuff that people tend to not want to talk about. So the whole purpose of society should be to make parenting as easy as possible. Industry should be marshaled, not just so that everything's about childcare. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying like this fits into the human needs paradigm that I talk about, that we should broadly define the concept of human needs and extract that from, or remove that from the concept of profit. Besides the kind of profits needed to pay for things, if we're going to continue a money-based market economy, which that's not going away in your lifetime or mine. But the privatization of profit, the privatization of ownership being your ticket to government violence, are all part of this hierarchical fucking nightmare. And so this guy comes in, and that's one thing to note, is that Lori Lightfoot, who got fucking embarrassed hilariously, she didn't even win the primary to become a candidate. Terrible mayor. She held on to this because she could negotiate. She literally just deliberately hurt people by preventing, like this young woman who was talking, in order to just keep some leverage, because she wasn't serving humans and the broad-based human needs. And it's good that she got booted out, and that Brandon Johnson is in. He seems like a great guy. I didn't really follow Chicago politics super close when I was living there. I don't really do a ton of local stuff wherever I live. I probably could. Let's just keep playing here. Why not? We're at the end. How are you going to pay for it? How can we afford to let humans have bonded connections? That sounds expensive.
Significantly our funding for substitutes. We think this could add maybe another potentially $10 million to the budget. I will tell you, I think it's a worthwhile investment.
The head of the Chicago Teachers Union, which had demonstrated unsuccessfully at City Hall for the changes back in January, calling this new policy transformative.
Nearly 80% of the members are women. This policy makes sense, and it should never be at a negotiating table. In fact,
damn right. That's well said. All right, let's move it on here. Oh, this is actually, no, we're not moving on. So here's the stuff I had. So this is the International Labor Organization, ILO.org. More than 120 nations provide paid maternity leave. More than 120 countries around the world provide paid maternity and health benefits by law, including most industrialized nations except Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, says a new report. Maternity Protection at Work, that's the name of the report, by the International Labor Offices. In all parts of the world, working women who become pregnant are faced with the threat of job loss, suspended earnings, and increased health risks due to inadequate safeguards for their employment, says F.J. Hammer, Chief ILO Conditions of Work Branch, who oversaw the report, Maternity Protections at Work. In many countries, women's job income is vital for the survival of the family, the report says. It finds that the women provide the main source of income in some 30% of all households worldwide. In Europe, 59% of working women supply half or more of their family's household income. In the United States, the figure is slightly less, 55% of working women. In India alone, An estimated 60 million people live in households maintained only by women. Here, this paragraph. The countries that provide the most paid maternity leave by law include the Czech Republic, 28 weeks, Hungary, 24 weeks, Italy, 5 months. Why is Italy in months? Couldn't you just say 20 weeks? Whatever. So I know it's more than a week precisely, but Canada, 17 weeks, Spain and Romania, 16 weeks each. Denmark, Norway, and Sweden all provide extensive paid leave, which may be taken by either parent, although a portion is reserved for the mother. Yeah, a lot of those countries give like your full salary for like a year, or your mom can take 6 months, your dad can take like all kinds of just immense benefits, plus all sorts of support, all sorts of stuff, because there's probably improvements there, in according to the world I would want to build. But what the United States does is, if you're lucky, you won't lose your job. If you're lucky, your boss will be cool about it. That's it. You're rolling the dice here. And a lot of women, the stress of that. I've heard of women going back to work after 2 or 3 weeks. I had a client, when I was cleaning fish tanks, this guy, not that I'm judging this guy specifically, he seemed like he was a pretty good dad, but his wife gave birth that morning, and he was in his office. He came in, he's like, yeah, she gave birth, because I knew his wife. I was like, well, why aren't you there? What are you doing here? I said, I was friendly with the guy. I kind of ribbed him a little. I wasn't the person I am now. I would have said, hey, motherfucker, socialism, bitch. I would have slapped him across the face and shaken. No, actually, I'm kidding. That dude was a former Marine, and I heard him threaten some guy once on the phone. Like, the guy was being an asshole, and he was like, you want to come down here? I'm a former Marine. Come down here. It's like, okay, whoa. Had a really big fish tank. So yeah, it's horrible here though, because it pays off for the bosses, because a stressed out young woman who just had a baby, and some people, it varies. Some people have fairly easy births and their bodies kind of bounce right back, but it can cause all kinds of difficulties and complications, on top of the deficit of support we have, because our neighborhoods are built for individuals, not communities. You're lucky to have sisters and uncles and aunts and grandparents around that can help you out. Whereas in the evolutionary times, it's a weird way of saying the past, there were always adults around. Of course, there were probably certain circumstances where there weren't, but people cared for children. That's why this is why The Mandalorian is popular. Save the baby. Protect the baby. This is why Kirstie Alley had a career with John Travolta in the Look Who's Talking series of films. Because human beings naturally are, oh my God, the baby. Protect the baby. We all have that. Not some more than others, but I have that. I don't want to have a fucking kid, precisely because I have too much. I almost said love, but like I overly, like, I don't have full command of my emotional reactor. I would worry the stress would overwhelm me, particularly in a world like this. And I don't really have any desire. No. I'll play Baby Simulator, okay, on Steam when it goes on sale. But no, I have no interest in it. I can't handle the fucking noise. The sound of the baby. It's just God, horrifying. Don't even get me. But nevertheless, I have that though. Like, I protect the baby, especially the little cute green one with magic powers. More Mandalorian there. And that impulse, that evolutionarily deeply rooted instinct to like care about someone else's child, is weaponized. It's converted into a cudgel in the culture war. And this is what all the panics are about. The satanic panics of the 80s. There's been panics, moral panics is a more broader term for that. All the ways that they're doing it right now with the trans thing, they're talking about grooming. Oh, Target has a t-shirt with a rainbow flag on it. That means they want gay people to rape your kid, to teach your kids gay or whatever the fuck. Grooming children, drag shows are all about that's all nonsense. But they're reaching into your instinctive, the hall of instincts that is in every human's DNA that makes you care a lot about children. This is partially why the abortion thing is so emotionally persuasive for those on the right. It's emotional for all sides. I would argue and guess, but like, because you got to protect the baby. Except once the kid is born, they don't give any care at all, especially if the kid has brown skin. But even though they don't give a shit about the white babies either, other than their value on the adoption circuit, which is another one of those fucked up things that happens in this world, they're passing laws to make it easier for companies to employ children. We're bringing child labor back in this country. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, former spokesperson of Donald Huckabee Trump, was signed a law where they got rid of having to get parents' permission, which is all about human trafficking. It's about trafficking migrant children into those factories in those places. It's not going to be for the rich white kids that live near the governor, that live near the people who work for the governor. This country doesn't give a fuck about kids, other than the fact that we need children in order to produce workers and consumers. That's required. And that would also be, I don't want a world built around workers and consumers, but we want people to reproduce so the human species can keep going. I'm not that we're having any issue producing more babies, but the cruelty that's just baked into the way we treat children, especially from the right, is vast. And these people talking about grooming, worrying about drag shows, I would just present the idea that what about the churches? What about the Catholic Church, evangelical systems of abuse, of turning children's bodies and souls over to people who are predating on them? Predating doesn't sound right. Predating on them. Like, where's the concern for that? We're okay with allowing these places to be tax-free, to have such a big footprint in every community, when these are organizations that are proven, and nobody denies this. There's just a report about Illinois, several thousand kids were victimized and hundreds of priests involved, and they just move them around. Oh, you've used up all the soul, you've bruised too many souls where you live, we'll just put you over there. Shh, keep quiet about it. That's our culture. We don't give a shit about kids. So if you're giving money to those things, you're funding child exploitation and child sexual assault. That's not my church, my priest is, but they're taking your money, aren't they? So you should be against at least no child rape for 10 years. And then you can go back to paying no taxes. You know how politically suicidal it would be for a politician to try to take away government, government, the church, the tax-free status of religious places. I think it's ridiculous. The Scientology ones is as stupid and as against it as I am. You got to respect the hustle, and that they set off indoor fireworks when they finally sued the government enough in the early 90s to get tax-free status. That's another abusive cult. But it's all just pinging that, it all just taking advantage of that instinct that you have to save the baby, just like the Mandalorian does. I'm not saying they're the equivalent, but that human thing, man. Why do you think Problem Child was such a difficult movie to watch? Because you hate that fucking kid. He's got red hair and he's a piece of shit. But John Ritter is so nice and likable, so you don't know who to root for. What if that's how it was written on the box? That's the description. So this is a TikTok lady. I remember seeing her when I was looking at TikTok. I haven't looked at TikTok in quite a while, but she does. She says USA mom in Germany. I know she's got a big following. Yeah, USA mom, and she does snappy little, and kind of shows Americans other possibilities about the USA. So here she is talking about being a postpartum mother living in Germany.
As a postpartum mother living in Germany, here were the resources that were provided to me completely free. Daily in-home visits with a nurse midwife to check on me and the baby. Up to 3 years parental leave where my job is protected. Mental health therapy appointments every other week. 250 euros per month per child. A sleep specialist who came to the house to make sure the children were sleeping okay as provided by the city. Exercise classes that included the infant. Regularly scheduled postpartum and infant doctor's visits. A medical grade breast pump. Parenting classes, information packets on how to care for the child as based on their age, and up to 3-week spa-like rehabilitative retreat for an overwhelmed mom and her child. Domestic help like cooking or cleaning if there's medical need. I know that there's more, but honestly it's hard to remember everything. This is what true support of mothers looks like. We need better in the USA.
Sounds expensive. That sounds so expensive. How are you going to pay for that? You mean employing people to show up and help you have deal with your baby, and so that you can raise a child who doesn't become an asshole? Because we want children to become assholes. That's oversimplifying, but the way our system works is that children don't get the development that is necessary, and they have to then go through coping series of usually the unhealthy coping skills precede the healthier coping skills. But you're busy fixing yourself if you're lucky enough to have the self-awareness or the resources or the wherewithal to even attempt such a feat, and work on it. I'm describing something probably everybody listening to this can kind of get their head around. Or you never even deal with your issues, and you're just one of those assholes out in the world. I have this idea for like a project. It would probably be best as like a collection of like multiple writers, like a book project, or maybe even a podcast / book called Socialism for Selfish Pricks Like You and Me. And you kind of just make arguments, because we're done explaining, like, the people who kind of have the bleeding heart emotional sort of thing where they kind of get it and they kind of get pulled into it just because they haven't even really been exposed to the information all that well. That effect alone has changed a lot, but they're only going to get so many people to sort of trend in that direction. I think there's selfish arguments for it. You'll just have a better life if you live in a socialist society in generally, but like frame it precisely around selfishness. Like, yeah, I know it sucks. It's like start with that premise that we're doing this out of selfish reasons. That's why I'm for universal healthcare. That's why I'm for other, workers controlling the means of production and stuff like that. For universal for liberation, for dignity, for universal dignity, liberation from this capitalist hierarchical nonsense. But yeah, it'd be a godsend if we had anything close to that here. But what we do in the Center, this is the Center on Poverty and Social Policy at Columbia University. 3.7 million more children in poverty in January 22 without monthly child tax credit. The monthly child poverty rate increased from 12.1% in December of 2021 to 17% in January of 2022, the highest rate since the end of 2020. The 4.9 percentage point, 41% increase in poverty represents 3.7 million more children in poverty due to the expiration of the monthly child tax credit or child tax credit payments. Latino and Black children experienced the largest percentage point increases in poverty, 7.1% and 5.9% respectively. Of course, in this horrible society, of course that's true. So as you recall, between July and December of 2021, the Internal Revenue Service paid out 6 months of advanced child tax credit payments worth up to $250 per child aged 6 to 17 and up to $300 per child aged under 6, reaching over 61 million children in over 36 million households. By December, it was keeping 3.7 million children from poverty and reducing monthly child poverty by 30%. A roundtable of the available research reveals that while in place, the monthly child tax credit payments buffered family finances amidst the continuing pandemic, increased families' abilities to meet their basic needs, reduced child poverty and food insufficiency, and had no discernible negative effects on parental employment. Because that's the thing. Oh my God, you're just going to give people money every month that pay for stuff that they're not going to do. They're going to stop working. Then our masters are going to have less leverage. This was a huge deal. This was one of those things like during the first year of the pandemic, the first and second year, where like the government actually showed up a little bit for people. A little, like way more than what Americans are used to and far less than what any of us deserve. But it was a sign of, it was a taste of this, and it scared them because they did not want to sustain anything like this. I think the Democrats tried, but they were, of course, beaten. I almost said beaten off. They were beaten back. They were stopped by Sinema and Manchin. I don't have the specifics of that, but those two, you have to always remember, reflected, if they needed 4 people to be the stick in the mud, they would have found 4 people. Like, it wasn't just, like a lot of Democrats got to pretend like there were 4 things because they always had these 2 psychos sitting there to being the fart at the orgy to ruin everything and to make sure that none of their, we didn't make any forward progress on anything like this. They're just giving, and this wasn't like, these were checks, if I'm remembering correctly. They actually sent them the money to spend. It wasn't just like your taxes are going to be lower with tax if you fill out the right paperwork because you had to pay H&R Block something. So this is what we do in America when it comes to spending money on kids. The capitalists were threatened because children being less poor meant that they might develop into more whole humans who could then form unions and have leverage and stand up for themselves and build community and offer community, because community means you have backup. When you have backup, you have power because you can stand up. And what the rich people have is they have the cops and each other. The class solidarity among the ruling class is immense. They have nothing but that. They're all interwoven together in order to enjoy the churn, the cheese that just comes frothing out the top, that they all get to scoop up. All your labor, all your work, all your stress is just how they're funding their yachts. They put each other on each other's corporate boards. They give each other jobs. They go to these same schools, the kind of fancy lad schools. They wall themselves into these structures in order to enjoy all that cheese. And it's just sick, man. It's just fucking sick that they let this expire. And that this is our country. These are our values. It's surprising that The Mandalorian is popular here. I would see that movie. Not me. Someone, an American, I don't know how to say this. Instead of protect the baby, The Mandalorian would be, that baby's not in poverty. That baby shouldn't get that $250 a month. Why is that baby lucky enough to have a guy with no face taking care of it? The charming stunt double of Pedro, fucking what's his name? Man, that guy's having a career, huh? All right, good stuff. So, of course, we're over an hour. I got a bunch of Chris Christie stuff to do. I've got a Donald Trump. I was going to watch Cornel West. I might have to just, I think we're going to call an audible. We're just going to do Trump. We'll get back to Christie again. I know I do this like every episode. So, one quick little teaser here.
Let me tell you something, everybody. The grift from this family is breathtaking.
There you go. Going after him. Real consistency. Real consistent here, there, Governor. So Trump, he got pinched. I'm picturing Lorraine Bracco in Goodfellas rushing to the bathroom with the bag of Coke and the scissors in a hurry to panic dump the drugs, just cutting the cocaine bag up and flushing it as much as she can. Why is that? Guys, our documents, they're going to be okay.
Another indictment, you've heard about this, of former President Donald Trump, this one for his alleged mishandling of classified documents. His lawyer told CNN he faces multiple felony charges, including a violation of the Espionage Act, along with obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and making false statements. Now, in a surprising move, Trump was first to reveal the indictment on his social media account. It follows a months-long investigation by a special counsel, and it is the first time that a former president has ever faced federal charges. Trump also faces 34 state-level felony charges in a separate issue, and other investigations are still going on.
And this is a test for the country. There are...
Oh, man. We got him. He's done. No, I don't. It's crazy. I don't know what else there's to say. Like, the one thought I've been having is just like all you had to do to not go to prison as a lifelong con man, as a fucking lying, cheating scoundrel that he's been his entire life. All you had to do was not become president. I mean, this is stuff he did while president. We're gonna get into some of the detail. I don't want to just sit here and act like this is all the. I mean, this is a huge deal. This is an important thing for a country. This kind of accountability. I think, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could like charge Biden with some kind of crime for allowing child poverty to go up, because that correlates with mass death. That doesn't seem to ever really register. Not that I'm going to start arguing for that, but the ways that we allow this class of folks, these powerful types to just like run roughshod, to permit like health insurance to be a thing. We're a society that tolerates that. Tens of thousands of deaths a year. Where it's like, well, yeah, that guy needs money. What do you think that should be criminalized? Killing tens of thousands of people? That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy, Hank. That's not something I would say. But it is good that we're holding someone to account for a guy who just nonstop lying and criming his entire time, abusing the norms, violating all those precious systems of unspoken social rules and regulations that underpin so much of this stuff. We're all just naked under these suits. So everybody puts on a suit who just has ugly, gross nipples and shitty back hair. Don't let's not be impressed by suits. I don't know why I'm thinking about that right now, but this the trappings and the artifice of class structures and stuff. They should wear hoodies and thrift store t-shirts, okay? And a wrist brace if your wrist is fucked up. Let's hear what this guy's got.
Are political, legal, and historical implications, major significance across all those categories. And we're going to get into all of it with Robert Costa in Washington and our legal analyst.
I forgot that I put water in that ice. I thought there was only ice in there. I just took a nasty big old swallow. Robert Costa, I like this guy. I don't know. He's just he just feels so robotic, but he's so good at this type of thing. He's so perfect. And lost a bunch of weight. Looks great.
Ricky Kleeman here in New York. But we want to begin with Catherine Herridge at the Justice Department, one of our most experienced reporters on this beat. Catherine, this is a new milestone for the country. Good morning.
Good morning, Tony. In its more than 150-year history, the Justice Department has never been here before. The formal indictment of a former president who's the front runner for his party's nomination, as he has in the past.
Didn't go after Nixon. Didn't go after Reagan for the savings and loan scandal. Didn't go after. There was another one there that I had in my brain. Maybe Obama for killing the planet with his oil exporting. I'm not, again, that wouldn't be a criminalizing thing. Destroying all hope of a future. That's not a crime. That's just good for profits.
As Trump tried to get out in front and set the narrative.
I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong.
Within minutes of announcing,
I did nothing wrong. I am innocent. They're lying. Look at this picture behind him. It's like some rich. I don't know. It's like bald Teddy Roosevelt? Maybe I don't know what that is, but there's a dude behind him like doing like the evil twisting of the mustache. It's a painting. There's two men in the painting, it seems, but I'm an innocent man.
His own indictment on social media, former President Donald Trump declared his innocence and blamed Democrats for the special counsel's move.
They figured the way they're going to stop us is by using what's called warfare. And that's what it is. This is warfare for the law.
Trump's attorney says the 7 counts include unlawful retention of national defense information, obstruction, conspiracy, and false statements. The criminal charges grew out of a nearly year-long probe into Trump's handling of hundreds of documents marked classified. After issuing a subpoena to turn over government records last year, the FBI searched Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. In total, more than 300 records, including some marked top secret, have been recovered. Trump's attorneys met with Justice Department officials earlier this week. Days after CBS News confirmed, investigators obtained an audio recording in which the former president acknowledges he held onto a sensitive Pentagon memo about Iran after leaving the White House.
Everything I did was right.
Throughout the investigation, the former president...
That was him on Hannity. I'm just going to back up 10 seconds.
Former president acknowledges he held onto a sensitive Pentagon memo about Iran after leaving the White House.
Everything I did was right.
Throughout the investigation, the former president has maintained that he did nothing wrong and claimed he declassified the sensitive materials when he left the White House.
And the Presidential Records Act is not criminal. I took the documents I'm allowed to.
Trump also took aim at the Biden administration, accusing it of weaponizing the Justice Department. Before news of the indictment broke, Mr. Biden insisted the department acts independently.
I have never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should do or not do relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge.
Bill Clinton got in a big media kind of scandal thingy for having a conversation with Loretta Lynch, his attorney general, on the tarmac. Trump used Jeff, that evil Frodo guy, Jeff, that dude. I can't think of his name. Oh God, it's killing me. Like his attorney general and Bill Barr too was like, they were clearly like political actors that he talked to constantly. Like this norm that Biden seems to be upholding. It would be a big scandal if it turned out he was lying about that. Well, in our world, who knows? But like, they would hold him to some kind of standard of that. That's why he's making that statement. That you're not supposed to, like, the idea is that if the president is talking to an attorney general, that means that they're injecting politics into these things. Inherently, I think all justice and all this is political. It's a delusional lie we tell ourselves that that institution is not at all a political body. But what underpins it mostly, though, is like the white supremacy and the kind of racial oppression in the caste system, and in order to sustain capitalist extraction. But it seems, I'm accepting that Biden is operating at a much different standard than Trump did with his Jeff Sessions. That's right. Yeah. Little elfish man.
Law enforcement source tells CBS News that later today, the U.S. Secret Service and Trump staff will meet to develop a threat assessment and security plan for Tuesday's arraignment in Miami.
So he's going to get fingerprinted and arrested again. Will there be a mugshot? I hope so. One that we see. They probably want one too. Here's the New York Times. Since I bookmarked this, or put this into the thing here. There's that ugly frog-faced fucking monster. There's been 9 new updates. So headline here: Trump indicted. Trump expected to surrender. Run! Let's do a car chase. I like watching car chases. I don't know if that would be considered a guilty pleasure, but car chases are excellent. I would love to see a car chase where Trump is trying to escape with helicopters. It's like, oh yeah, okay, he's making a southbound turn on. So he's going to surrender on Tuesday. Oh yeah, there's some issues with this judge because she's the one who Trump appointed her to the bench, which is and I guess she pulled some bullshit that had to get like some more higher courts up, like immediately reversed it, or not immediately, but had to reverse her terrible practices regarding this stuff before, I think. So here's the latest, according to the New York Times. I have not clicked on the updates thing. We'll see what that says. Former President Trump's initial appearance to face federal criminal charges on allegations that he mishandled classified documents after leaving office and will be before a judge he placed on the bench. Okay. Going in on Tuesday. It was not clear whether Judge Cannon, who was criticized by a higher court for handing him a series of unusually favorable rulings during the early stages of the investigation, would remain assigned for the entirety of Mr. Trump's case. Yeah. So we've seen a bunch of that stuff. Here's some bullet points. A federal grand jury has charged him with a total of 7 counts. I think we already heard that. The indictment reaches back to the end of Mr. Trump's term in January 2021. When the documents, many of which were said to be in the White House residence, were packed in boxes, along with clothes, gifts, photographs, demonic tokens, I was trying to think of stuff, orbs, evil orbs, and other material, and shipped by the General Services Administration to his private club and residence in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, to his lair, Castle Grayskull. 2 lawyers. Oh, that's where the heroes lived. I know, but it's a big skull. Usually that's not the good people, unless they're archaeologists or anthropologists, or the people who study bones. 2 lawyers, James Trusty, perfect name for a lawyer, and John Rowley, not so good, have left Mr. Trump's legal team and will no longer represent him in the documents case. That's always a good sign. Your lawyers just immediately bail. It's like they see the shark first, and they have like a hang glider they can both grab onto. I will be represented by Todd Blanche, Esquire, and a firm to be named later, Mr. Trump wrote on Truth Social. Let me say this real quick. Truth fucking Social. I don't mean this in a flattering way. It is the word truth. I was going to say it's a great name, but the word truth should not be legal to have a word truth in the name of a media organization. The concept of truth is like sacred in a sense. And this is just con man stuff, like naming his social media platform Truth Social. And I see people do this all the time where he shows up on there I think he has some kind of contractual obligation to not use other platforms, or else he might come back to Twitter like Elon Musk wants, that fascist idiot who's just converting Twitter. He's just really wrecking the place, bringing in all these weirdos and right. It's just madness what's happening to Twitter. But calling something a truth, even though we all know that it's bullshit, we know that it's just a word, it's just a name. But and I see lefty shows do this a lot, and I'm not even saying they should stop, but like the effectiveness of spreading a lie, the way the brain processes words, is that your brain comes up with the definition of truth, or you have the concept. We probably all have a similar concept generally for that word. What we consider to be true or not, we can have major disagreements about, which is kind of why it's one of those concepts that has to be sort of like prevented from being used to immediately mislead, because its presence in anything Trump says, you know he's going to be lying. You know he's not going to be telling the truth. If he is, it's by accident. But calling something a truth, and when someone says, okay, did you see Trump's latest truth? Did you hear the truth? Did you hear what Trump said on his truth? This is like the nefariousness, is it's so obviously what he's doing too, but we just accept it as being a thing, is that your brain is going to apply the concept of truth into its little foamy mess of how it processes the sentence that you just heard. And its presence is going to make it a little bit more likely than that you might believe it, or that it'll feel real. The repetition is a huge part of how he works. And then it just seems so fucking weird. I mean, I know it's so clear and craven, but I don't know how you'd enforce like that should be illegal. But calling a media company anything with the word truth is, I think, dangerous, and because it's clearly misleading. But even knowing it's a lie, your brain still can't not come up with process what you understand the notion of truth to mean. I just find it frustrating that people are just like, yeah, Donald Trump put out a new truth today. Like, what do you? Okay, so there's a recording. This is a big deal. He's also under investigation for the election, or how he tried to overturn the election in Georgia. I think that one phone call where he was telling the guy to come up with fake votes is going to cause a lot of problems for him, as well as the charges in New York for the Stormy Daniels payoffs and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on. But there's a recording here. This has been in the news. But before we get to that, he's golfing, according to Maggie Haberman. Oh boy. Update the flow chart. So here he clicked on new stuff. If the Trump kick goes to trial. So this is just the new articles that New York Times is cranking out. Yeah. Mr. Trump's allies. This is Jonathan Weissman 32 minutes ago. Mr. Trump's allies on the far right of the House Republican Conference have veered into making bellicose threats that sound like calls to arms. Representative Andy Biggs, Republican of Arizona, tweeted, "We now have reached a war phase. Eye for an eye." Okay. What would be the eye? What was that? Charge Biden with it? He's under investigation currently, by the way, for documents handling. Representative Clay Higgins, Republican of Louisiana, appeared to summon supporters of Mr. Trump's arraignment on Miami on Tuesday. He here's quoted: "Buckle up, 1/50K, know your bridges. 1/50th K." That must be some kind of militia code thing. I don't know. Rock steady calm. That is all, he wrote on Twitter in an apparent reference to military maps. There's some more about that. I have a bookmark here. So this is a Salon article. Highly damning evidence. Trump admits he had a secret doc he didn't declassify in leaked audio. Oh man, he would have been such an effective psycho emperor before electricity, before recording technology, and probably even like 9 years ago. No, but like with texting and emailing and phone records, and then everything being recorded is I have major problems with that. Obviously, I think that the data and the surveillance and all that, but like the era of texting, of the era of having communication, not just be like, you wrote a scroll and some guy went and screamed it at people from the corner, or even in the era of newspapers, which was its own sort of malevolent actors controlling those corporations, those access to information. in a really cosmic way, information access, like who controls photons and waves that hit your ears, photons hit your eyes, is a thing people aspire to be. The power mad people tend to want to be in the media. I mean, I'm doing a podcast. Obviously, I want people to hear my shit, see my photons, hear my waves. So I know CNN has a thing about this. So there's a transcript. So here, former President Donald Trump admitted in a 2021 meeting that he had a secret document he did not declassify, according to a transcript of recording obtained by CNN. As president, I could have declassified, but now I can't. Trump says, according to the transcript, while discussing a previously reported classified document discussing a potential attack on Iran. Sources told CNN that the recording captures the sound of papers rustling as if Trump was waving the document around. Although it's unclear if it was the actual document. Secret. This is secret information. Look at this. Trump says at one point, according to the transcript. This was done by the military and given to me. I don't know if I'm hitting the trunk thing. Yeah, so I don't understand what he wants it for. What could the motives be? I don't know. I mean, that's obviously we could suspect malicious motives like selling it or something, or just it's weird. So I'm just going to click on play here. This is 8:41 a.m. updated Friday, June 9th by Paula Reed and Jeremy Herb. Exclusive. This is CNN Politics. Exclusive. Donald Trump admits on tape he didn't declassify secret information. Play.
In this recording, this was back in July 2021, he is speaking to some visitors at his New Jersey golf club. We know from our sources that among the people in the room were at least 2 people working on Mark Meadows' autobiography, as well as some Trump aides. He is referring here to General Mark Milley. He says, quote, well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't that amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. On the tape, we're told that you can hear him rustling the papers at this point. Look, this was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. I'll keep reading, but you can tell at least 4 times, he emphasizes that this was Milley. He goes on to say all sorts of stuff, pages long. Look, wait a minute. Let's see here. I just found, isn't this amazing? This totally wins my case. And I want to note here, his case he's referring to here is this dispute with Milley, not the current pending criminal investigation. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. I will note that secret and confidential are both, of course, levels of classification. And then arguably the most damning quote, he says, he asks someone in the room if he can declassify it. And then he says, as president, I could have declassified, but now I can't. And of course, that last quote undercutting all of the public arguments that he, his allies, and his attorneys have made about how he was able to declassify things once he left office, or that he may have even had a standing declassification order to declassify any materials in his possession before he left office. But in terms of the investigation, prosecutors are likely going to be most interested in the fact that he is claiming to have retained secret information and is appearing to try to share that with a room full of people, none of whom had security clearances. So again, this is a really key piece of evidence in this ongoing investigation.
Yeah, Paula, this was, reading your reporting this morning, it was a genuine kind of jaw-drop moment for a minute, just because of how many things it seemed to rebut about what the president has said publicly. You kind of got at this a little bit, but what is your sense of how this will factor into things going forward or into the indictments that we haven't seen yet?
When we're doing our
Your secrets are safe, everybody. Don't worry. It's kind of like the funny thing about all this is like, I don't want to be like, who cares? It's not relevant. But does this have any material impact on your life? No. I mean, these documents and stuff, this relates to foreign policies and people Chelsea Manning got fucking put away. Chelsea Manning's one of the bravest people on the planet with a very strong, amazing person, in my opinion, just a hero and a really cool. Chelsea does streams and stuff. She's pretty cool. I like Chelsea Manning a lot. But I think she was tortured and put away for like espionage stuff. But it's about a government that's paranoid about its secrets. And our government is not designed to help people and to be a part of like a better project for humanity. It's about sustaining a crop of humans to be fed upon by corporations as workers, as well as the consumption, the rapid, the rapacious consumption that's required to maximize profits. And so like they're going to be secretive about their stuff. I guess you could argue a government should have secrets. It should, there's, I mean, you know, like, I'm not saying this because I'm for that. I'm just saying like I can get that these are serious violations, and but it can kind of seem a little pedantic, and especially given the kind of sloppy nature of all the people, because Mike Pence had boxes of stuff and Joe Biden is under investigation for some of that. I know there was some stuff Obama had, but not to the same degree. I'm not trying to say those the nuances are the same. I think the big dividing fact, one of the major dividing things here, is that Trump was repeatedly asked to have this shit returned by the archive department or whatever, and he was playing games and lying, and so it's obviously of a different sort, especially if there's like further communications that come out about him trying to make a transaction based on some of this stuff. That'll to me be like kind of the smoking gun that hopefully convinces a jury or whatever. But like this whole thing about, look, this is secret, this document had a stamp on it, and that's what the legal, but these are legal boundaries. These are very, you know, the court systems make a big deal about truth telling a truth. You have to swear, the whole raise your hand, all that stuff. I've done a deposition before for the workers comp thing, and you know, you have to kind of pledge that you know, if you go to any court, they'd make you do that. So yeah, I'm not trying to be cynical about that. I just find it to be kind of esoteric, if that's even the right word. But nevertheless, could have huge consequences. It would be amazing to have this guy go to prison. It's going to make a big difference based on when the trials happen, because are they going to be doing a trial in late October, right before the election? Him running adds such an extra layer of complexity to this. And then what? They suspend the proceedings for the election, and then they would resume, and he's in trial as president, and then gets convicted. Or like what? It's so weird.
Reporting on the existence of
has said publicly, you kind of got at this a little bit, but what is your sense of how this will factor into things going forward, or into the indictments that we haven't seen yet?
When we were doing our reporting on the existence of this audio recording last week, I mean, one source close to the legal team told me, look, this audio recording, this is a problem. And the former president's legal team only learned about this a few months ago in March, when a witness was asked about it before the grand jury. I also want to note that prosecutors subpoenaed the document that he refers to, and they still don't have it. It's unclear, one, what this document was. If it was indeed a real document, though it appears by this transcript, he does clearly think that he is in possession of something, that he is showing them something that supports his argument against Milley. But at this point, it's not clear that the government even has this document in its possession. So we don't have the indictment at this point. It's unclear when that will be unsealed, but it would not be surprising if this audio recording or quotes from it come up in the indictment. But at this point, we don't know. It's clearly, though, a piece of evidence.
The indictment has been unsealed. So this was this lady's talking in the morning here, but before I start recording, the indictment was unsealed. So we do have some photos of the documents to take a look at. Before we get to that, though, let's just take a look at a couple more links here. A Trump aide has also been indicted in this. This is on Axios. Nope, that's not it at all. Walt Nauta, an aide to former President Trump, has been indicted in the investigation into his handling of classified documents, Trump wrote on Truth Social on Friday. Be a weird thing for him to make up, I guess, you know. But the big picture, the news comes less than 24 hours after Trump wrote on Truth Social that he was being charged in a criminal investigation. So he learned that he had just learned that. Okay, fine. So some other guy's possibly going to get wrapped up in this too. Maybe whenever this is a thing, that's a possibility that they'll work a deal. You rat on your boss, and you get to avoid having to make fried calamari in prison with the other gangsters, where you slice the garlic so thin that it melts. You know what I'm talking about. Movie reference. Vice News. We'll just let the AI reading person tell us this. So here, listen to this article.
We need to start killing. Trump's far-right supporters are threatening civil war.
There it is.
In what is becoming a now all too familiar trend, former President Donald Trump's far-right supporters have threatened civil war after news broke Thursday that the former president was indicted for allegedly taking classified documents from the White House without permission.
So, this is going to get great. Hold on. Okay, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to hit play. Brace yourselves. Close the car door and listen to this one.
We need to start killing these traitorous fuckstains, wrote one Trump supporter on the Donald, a rabidly pro-Trump message board that played a key role in planning the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Another user added, "It's not going to stop until bodies start stacking up. We are not civilly represented anymore, and they'll come for us next. Some of us, they already have."
Yeah, they got
Trump
some of them. I got to hear that again.
Documents from the White House without permission.
Okay, here we go.
We need to start killing these traitorous fuckstains, wrote one.
I wouldn't surprise me if they would bleep that just because our world's so stupid about like, oh, the advertisers, the Dawn liquid, Dawn dish soap might not want to advertise on our page if we have the word fuck on the page. So luckily they're not beeping it like fucking YouTube would. I mean, they don't auto do that, but you know. So yeah, there are a lot of violence being threatened. I'm kind of surprised there hasn't been already something like this. Or meaning like what's possible so far is way worse than what's happened in terms of like people among his supporter base. Because we're not talking about, and I don't mean this necessarily just about his own followers, but as a people, America especially, humans in this modern world are pretty stressed out, pretty and having their heads rotted by our media consumption and our phones and our overworked culture and all the rotten shit that flows out of a white supremacist that's grasping for trying to reinvigorate its fascist roots and impose. And so, we see this kind of the violence with guns in our country is horrifying. And there's so much preparation for violence here, and there's a lot of bullets and a lot of guns out there. And so I'm a little surprised that there hasn't already been something, and I'm not hoping it happens because I want to be right. I'd rather be wrong about this, but there are a lot of days to come with intense media scrutiny of this, with the right wing chatterbox, the people who, there's these mass shooters and you hear the same names over and over named as influences in their media habits. They're all going to be talking about this stuff. There's going to be more coming out. We're not going to do it responsibly, I guess is what I'm saying. So I would be surprised if there isn't some kind of incident involving a person in a stochastic terrorist sort of way. So yeah, Trump has been indicted on 7 counts. We already know that. People are threatening Merrick Garland in one post on the Donald. A little bit about Merrick Garland, his wife, his daughters. A user shared a link to an article about the Attorney General's children. That is not okay. Under the post, another user replied, "His children are fair game, as far as I'm concerned." Okay, that's horrible. They want to arrest Jack Smith. That's the special prosecutor assigned to this. In addition to threats of violence against lawmakers and politicians, many are also calling for civil war. I'm sure that's just like, what do you mean by that? I think we're in a kind of civil war. I don't know if that's the best term to describe what's happening. There's obviously a rift of some sort, although I don't think people necessarily are easily categorizable into those two like perfect encampments. There definitely does seem to be forces that are resistant to change. Let's just put it that way, the most boring way possible. Okay, this one will be a fun one. I don't know. I wish I could just select it and then have it play. This is me wanting my AI technology to work better. I'm just going to guess.
Children are fair game as far as I'm concerned.
Nope, not there.
I'm for that civil war that the damned act. Our member of the Donald wrote. Another, referencing former President Barack Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, said, "Fact. Our forefathers would have hung these two for treason." Others on similar social media platforms made general calls for an armed uprising.
Okay, right before this.
Perhaps it's time for that civil war that the damn demo KK-crats have been trying to start for years now, a member of the Donald wrote. Another
This is again.
war that the damn demo KK-crats have been
Demo KK-crats.
war that the damn demo KK-crats have been trying to start for years now.
That's so funny. Yeah, so they're upset about the demo KKK-crats. Yeah, okay. Well done. Fine. So yeah, they're Fox News host Sean Hannity told his viewers that the U.S. justice system has, quote, been weaponized beyond belief, and that the country is in serious trouble, while former Trump aide Stephen Miller appeared on Fox News and said he hoped the whole of the Republican Party, the whole of the conservative movement can help my hair grow back. Wrote that the whole of the country that cares about the rule of law coalesce around President Trump. One, we'll get to the end here. That'll be this is another one I see. Whenever there's a curse, it's going to be funny.
Some even believed that the latest indictments were the result of Trump's failure to get January 6th prisoners released from jail while they awaited their trial, something the former president has no power over. Karma is a bitch, isn't it, you rich fuck asshole, a 4chan user wrote. Leaving innocent people to be abused in the D.C. jail, then catch hard time for supporting you on January 6th, 2021, has consequences.
Oh, so that person seems to be mad at Trump. He's the one who's receiving the karma.
Something the former president has no power over. Karma is a bitch, isn't it, you rich fuck asshole, a 4chan user wrote.
So funny.
Leaving innocent people to be abused in
it's funny. It is kind of interesting that these guys are all upset about the conditions that some of the January 6th people had to face, as if the entire military or prison industrial slavery complex in America isn't designed to inflict maximum punishment on people. Like there's innocent people who haven't been tried. Rikers Island, for instance, is this absolute horrifying dungeon of abuse and violence and neglect. And there's constant stream of stories from places where people are being treated with conditions far worse. And that's just the stuff we hear about. But they got upset that some of these DC guys didn't have places to plug in their PlayStations and stuff. Well, I imagine some of them had to deal with some uncomfortable sleeping. The carceral system is disgusting. Yeah, I could go on and on about that. But the way we are such a violent people, especially if you've been deemed a criminal by the police state, it's gross. So this is a tweet from Ed Krasenstein. There's some kind of Twitter notoriety. Trump during that CNN town hall being asked by Caitlin Johnstone. Is it Johnstone? Caitlin Collins. I was off. Let's just hear him.
When it comes to your documents, did you ever show those classified documents to anyone?
Not really. I would have the right to. By the way, they were
What do you mean, not
declassified
really?
after. Not that I can think of. Let me just tell you, I have the absolute right to do whatever I want with them.
There it works. Not really. Okay. Fun. Mitt Romney, the Mormon paladin of, well, I wouldn't say progress. A 3D printer, the 3D printed human, Mitt Romney, statement on reports of indictment. This is Mitt Romney throwing down on behalf of the good people like you and me. Oh, okay. U.S. Senator Mitt Romney issued the file. Okay, we got that. Like all Americans, Mr. Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence. The government has the burden of proving its charges beyond a reasonable doubt and securing a unanimous verdict by a South Florida jury. By all appearances, the Justice Department and Special Counsel, whoa, Ralph Falca, whoa, girl, whoa, have exercised due care, affording Mr. Trump the time and opportunity. No, Ralph Falca, easy, girl, easy. You can dance later. You can dance later, sweet horse nips. To avoid charges that would not generally have been afforded to others. Here's a part that's quoted by somebody. Mr. Trump brought these charges upon himself by not only taking classified documents, but by refusing to simply return them when given numerous opportunities to do so. These allegations are serious, and if proven, would be consistent with his other actions offensive to the national interest, such as withholding defensive weapons from Ukraine for political reasons and failing to defend the capital from violent attack and insurrection. Rafelka, charge! Apparently he did that from his horse. That's kind of crazy. The only notable bit here, I mean, okay, fine, he's speaking up. It's a big news day when a Republican shows any shred of independent thinking and doesn't just completely fall in line behind their crazy nonsense. That he said consistent with his other actions offensive to the national interest. So yeah, I mean, I'm not aligning with the national interest. I think the national interest is killing the planet. So here's Ben Shapiro. Matt Leck retweeted, made a quote, Trump being pathologically incapable of intent has been Shapiro's go-to for half a decade. Matt Leck is a guy on Majority Report, and he does a thing called Left Reckoning, which is a decent show. Subscribe on YouTube. Here's Ben Shapiro giving it the old, what makes this guy so renowned for his intellectual prowess. Tweet by Jason S. Campbell. Ben Shapiro says Trump mishandled classified documents, not for any nefarious purpose, but because Trump likes things, and so he takes them. Is he talking about pussies, Ben?
Is there any evidence that Donald Trump meant to take these documents home to Mar-a-Lago and then hand them off to Vladimir Putin under cover of darkness? You remember, those were all the rumors at the time. The rumors at the time when this broke was that he was selling off our nuclear codes to the Chinese or some such nonsense. And it turns out that was all crap.
It was all crap.
The theory that I had from the beginning was correct. That basically Trump was like, I like that document. It's nice.
Okay.
It's signed by Kim Jong-un. He and I are friends. Take it home. They call it Kim Jong-un. That was the actual reason he had the documents. Not for any nefarious purpose, but because Trump likes things, and so he takes them. By the way, that's not even unique to Trump.
He's just a little baby boy. He's just a little baby boy, and he wants something. He's a kid who sees a cookie in a jar, and he takes it. We give toddlers more credit. We expect better of 3-year-olds, although we give them some space to make mistakes, because we also have an idea that they'll probably grow out of it and maybe learn and be better, which we do not expect that from this guy, from Big Daddy Trump. Ben Shapiro. God, it makes me embarrassed to be doing a Trump voice that he does one too. I don't like this kind of company.
Bill Clinton really liked a lot of the stuff at the White House, and so he just took it with him when he left in 2000. You remember this? He took the cutlery in 2000 because Bill Clinton is trailer trash. But it is an amazing thing that they're now talking about prosecuting Trump over mishandling of classified documents.
Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Clinton took some stuff that they had to replace. I don't know. What the hell do I know about that? I don't trust Ben Shapiro as a source on that. But sometimes there's really cool potato mashers. Guacamole mashers, a handheld one. They're not all built the same. You want the ones with the smooth round things. They're a little bit easier. If Bill Clinton, hey, this is a great potato masher, I can make some delicious guacamole with this. It would be so good. Sure, he took the cutlery. There was actually rumors when George W. Bush came into the White House. They spread this bullshit, and it maybe somebody messed with the keyboard, but that the Clinton staff had taken the W's off of the key. It was this whole story cycle that was just ridiculous and such nonsense. But yeah, so Ben Shapiro's running cover for this, saying that it's fine. He just likes things. He just wants to take them. What's wrong with that? I'm saying it quickly. That's why I'm smart. This guy is just one of those feelings emitters. He is very, he just projects, he just spell casts the way you're supposed to sort of, the umbrage you're supposed to feel about this stuff. It's amazing that this guy has a career. It's fucking stunning. So anyway, then Hilary dusts off the elbow and she comes flying in from the top rope. I think this is a terrible decision and indicative of an operation that is run by a moron. She tweets, bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition, but her emails, hat, and support. That should be quotes. Come on. And support Onward Together. Groups working to strengthen our democracy. So it's a photo of an old-timey one. She's much younger and has a hat, although this is quite clearly photoshopped and very poorly, I would add. I mean, I've seen worse, but her emails referring to the, one of the stories that dominated the Hillary Trump campaign in 2016 about that she had a server. I looked into it a little bit. I didn't get the entire story. I don't think it's of anywhere near the nature of Trump bringing boxes and boxes and boxes home on his way out as president. She was in the Secretary of State. The documents there were like classified documents in the emails, and it wasn't on a properly facilitated government server or something like that. I did see something about some of the classifications were imposed after they were sent, which is, I guess, a nuance. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's true for some of it, not for all of it. So there's some big leaks, and it was a big, ugly thing. At the time, the James Comey came out. This was like, 12 days before the election, saying she was under investigation for this. And then the media just went apeshit and really covered. I think they actually did have some kind of influence. I mean, just in terms of at least the tone and the narrative setting that the DC political press has in order to keep this race close. The one that she won, she actually got more votes than Trump, and then he became president. She won the vote, but she did not win the election. But this is fucked up that she is throwing in on this. Like, this, to me, just stay out of it. This just adds fodder. This adds ammunition to those that are going to use the argument that it's a different standard for Trump than for others, because it's not that complicated meaning the meme, the story, the idea that she improperly handled classified information, even if there's nuances that make it seem perfectly okay or whatever, that doesn't matter to people who are going to need that information. Not that they would have changed things if she had stayed out of this anyway, but it's just like, and you're going to come in here and ask for money with a link that says shop, where people can buy her emails. So she's basically trolling, I guess, so Onward Together is her super PAC, by the way. I had to just read up a little bit about it. I didn't really get too far, but they fund candidates and support candidates who are there, which is part of the corruption mill in America, is that we don't have publicly financed elections. So we have all these sort of political action committees that can raise as much money as they want and use them to influence races and to spend money on media. So that's gross. Just like, stay out of it, Hillary. What the fuck are you doing? One thing I did want to show, this hat is $32, which is pricey, but you're donating to a cause of some sort, quote unquote. The product is on pre-order and will ship the week of June 26th. What, you can't get it faster than that? That's ridiculous. But it's called Unstructured Dad Hat. What is this? In like the information, Unstructured Dad Hat. It's a baseball cap, about as ordinary as it gets, and hers looks like it has structure. Sometimes these hats have nothing up in the front quadrant, but sometimes they have extra kind of like a plastic ribbing in there, or sort of like a mesh thing in there. It's usually white up inside there. And I guess it's an unstructured dad hat. I'm going to start calling things like, oh, where's my unstructured dad hat? I'm wearing one right now. It's just like that. And they say everything is union made in the USA and union printed unless specified otherwise on the product page. Highly skeptical of that dubious claim. If they really lived by that, it wouldn't change much of my opinions, but because they're cynically these are corporate demons that are saying that we do union stuff because they're trying to get you on that. So, there's a pin here. This is one where she's looking at her phone. That's good. Sunglasses, phone, some kind of brooch, matching necklace, brown and blue balls. Matches to her bracelet, her brooch, and even a blue earring, a single one. Although, the other one might be hidden behind her other cheek, but her face is slightly askew, so you can't. And it says, but her emails. Enamel pin, $12. Unstructured enamel pin. No, it doesn't say that. 1.5 inches. That's a little one. Coffee mug. Same deal. Got a lady looking like she's having a nice sip of a coffee. Onward Together. Totally photoshopped because it should be a little bit curved if it's on the side of a curved mug, right? Unless you have to go out of your way to conform to the forced perspective of that. Yeah. Here's a totally look how horrible that looks. Just the Photoshop has a curve thing. You can make it curved slightly. a ceramic mug that says it shouldn't be harder to obtain an abortion than an AR-15. I agree with the sentiment. They're selling stuff to try to promote women having rights over people with uteruses having rights over their bodies, which is a right that is no longer a thing. It used to be, was never the kind of access that they deserved. But strange thing for a mug, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily judge somebody too harshly for this mug, but it is an odd choice to have a mug. So anyway, my favorite Hillary thing, just this reminds me, is this photo. I'm sorry for the audio listeners, of her in an apartment. If you're only listening to the audio, just Google Hillary Clinton apartment, and you'll see what it's this. It's like a poor it's this actually. Honestly, my apartment looks a lot like this. Really close to this, actually. I think I might have a slight bit more space between the counters, but yeah, that's about as much counter space as I've got. Stove directly opposite the sink. Wow, this is actually almost exactly right. My fridge is left of the stove, just like this one, and she's standing with and her body language, just the way she's looking. Maybe it's just an inopportune moment, but this is the kind of thing that she would be like. If this were her prison, she would end it within 10 minutes. The luxury this person's, when she was governor of Arkansas, they had slaves. She wrote about it. They had prisoners working as house servants when she was governor of Arkansas. It was a tradition in Arkansas, like the late 80s. And they're really rich. The Clintons are fucking well over 100 million, and they've never picked up a fork that hadn't been polished by someone in white gloves in decades. They are fancy through and through. They're kings of a sick society, and you know that they've just enjoyed nothing but luxury and largesse at every moment. Slumming it for them would be like eating Doritos. Like maybe there's a platter, because I'm sure they're moving through lots of different spaces, and there's a bag of Doritos. You know what I'm saying? Like they probably occasionally drink Mountain Dew and Doritos. Like I'm not saying like but like the delicious food. Humans are really good at food. Food is something we've nailed, and access to food maybe not, but we just choose not to, because that sustains the stress dividends. But we do food so well. We do food so well and music so well. We have walls and buildings. Why do we need all this other technology? Why do we need fucking Vision Pro, Apple? I mean, like we have the basics in a way that is probably unsustainable as far as the planet goes, but we could stretch that for several hundred more years instead of just burning it as fast as we can, because yachts are fun. So anyway, it's just a great picture though. She has the look on her face. She looks like she's in a horror movie. This looks like a still from someone experiencing the worst kind of trauma. It's amazing. It's Unsealed. Breaking news. CBS. Big set.
We are continuing to follow this developing story. The Justice Department has unsealed the indictment into former President Donald Trump. Trump has been indicted on 37 felony counts related to the handling of sensitive documents. Again, these documents were
And when they unsealed it, snakes popped out.
found by the FBI during a search of the former president's Mar-a-Lago residence. The president is expected to be in court in Miami on Tuesday.
We want to bring in now CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott,
that face.
Walk us through the severity of these.
Scott MacFarlane, your face is huge. It's very long. It looks like the Y coordinate has just been stretched out like up to 114%.
Charges. The first 30 so charges are all about the individual files that the president.
Okay. Wait. Let me just be clear. So there's 37 different counts. It's okay. So it was 7 before, or at least 7 kind of categories. But so it is 37 counts over handling. Wow.
Alleged to have knowingly retained, and then there are charges about false statements, espionage. Give us a sense of what is contained and what the former president is actually looking at in terms of this criminal indictment.
It's easy to get caught up in the fact that this is unprecedented, that it's a former president facing federal charges, potentially sitting for trial before a judge he himself appointed. unprecedented. It's easy to get fixating on that. But these charges here in a vacuum are just so serious. Obstruction, willful retention of national security secrets. His co-defendant charged with making false statements to the FBI. In any context, this is serious stuff, and the top line penalty would be decades in prison on some of these charges, individual charges, and $250,000 fines on each of these charges.
I always find that like $250,000 or 10 years and like 10, the money, of course you're gonna, if it's not a choice, but like you see sorry, there used to be these road signs that said like if you get caught speeding or something violating, etc., 10 years in jail or $10,000 fine. It's like, that's not even close. Like this guy would do. What am I? Sorry, that's a stupid. That was a very poor take there. Bad interruption, Hank. Bad.
This is as high as the federal government goes with prosecutions on classified records. We don't see cases bigger than this, at least not often. And it is a former president. So it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening in modern day America in a politically toxic environment. He'll face a judge Tuesday afternoon for an initial appearance at 3.
All right, let's just jump ahead in this. This is like a live stream. I know there's photos. First, let's just check the photos, actually. Tweet from Monica Alba. Photos from the Trump indictment showing where some classified documents were kept via our NBC News Justice team. For the non-video listeners, there's a lot of boxes. This is a ton of shit. Assuming that these are separate piles, it could be some of the same boxes in different rooms, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of different possibilities. But the first one is like a stage in some sort of ballroom where they're just like loaded up on a stage too high. And it's just the standard sort of paper things. All the paper reams of paper would come in, kind of what you'd picture, places to write stuff on them. Just files. You know, we've all seen Breaking Bad where they turn on the magnetic thing to erase the laptop. Tons of stuff though. Like it's one thing to think like, okay, yeah, you're leaving a place. You probably fill some boxes with some shit. You got 2 or 3 boxes and might have grabbed the wrong box, or, you know, I don't know why you'd keep anything from an employer other than like, I guess, employment contracts or some, you know, maybe there's a reason to have a file or two. On a scale of a presidency, I imagine it's more, but this is a shit ton. And this one is hilarious. It's in the bathroom. It's a really gaudy, this sort of ornate gold handled sink faucet hardware. Like a, wow, what is that? There's so like the lamp, there's a crystal chandelier above the toilet. And then there's also like a crystal kind of sconce structure with, and then like really ugly mirror. You know how hard it is to dust shit like that? Has all these ornate gold things, you know, like the outside of a painting kind of thing, that sort of thing, but like way more protrudy than normal. The only thing I like about this is the nice supply of hand towels, but you know, rich people always have clean hand towels, not like us poorers. But right next to the toilet, is this guy taking shits? One says something bedroom. Multiple just piled up 6 high right around the toilet. And there's, let's see, there's 2, there's 3, so 6 stacks, just say 6 by, so roughly 36 boxes here in the bathroom. That's a crystal chandelier. And look at the shitty shower curtain. This is your shower curtain. A pressure bar across the top. You don't have lion heads on the end, some kind of ornate sculpted thing. Probably ripped it down. Regular ass hooks. What is this? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy selling people at the airport shower curtains as earrings? I always found that a little implausible. Wait a minute. Hold on. That was the Cornell West. We're not going to get to that today. Another one, like a basement kind of storage room, just all the way to the ceiling, floor to ceiling. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's just 56 on the main chunk, and then there's like a couple of smaller stacks. So there's a good 70 boxes in this room. That's a lot. That's a lot of shit, man. And here's a bunch of stuff. These are like cardboard boxes. This is a good 10 to 15 boxes of different sizes. So over 100 boxes. I mean, this is a lot of stuff. Yeah, this is crazy. So let's jump ahead though here in the CBS broadcast. I think this has been a live thing they've been doing. What are we at, 2 hours and something? Robert Costa, my man. John something. Okay. I saw a lady holding a piece of paper.
Alleging the former president of the United States with a conspiracy to obstruct justice. This 49-page indictment, the special counsel invited everyone to read in its full. And I would also recommend that people read it in its full. It is detailed, specific, and it is alarming in some of the charges that are made, not only against Donald Trump, but also his personal valet. John Dickerson is with us.
The Sphinx talks. I mean, we've seen Jack Smith's face, but not heard him speak. And there's an old expression: the more you talk, the less you have to say. He didn't talk very long because the indictment is so full of the talking that he does. What did he say though when he talked? He talked about the scope and gravity, and he founded that on two things: the men and women of of national security and the danger of having this kind of information just floating around. And he talked about the rule of law as the bedrock principle of the liberal democratic order, which America is the example of the world. And then that other bedrock principle, innocent until proven guilty. Short and to the point.
Yeah, Robert, I was struck by this and reading this too. We're talking about America's most important secrets. We're talking about American intelligence.
The hammering is back. They're hammering in the, I can't, it's hitting me. God.
That protects our men and women who serve in the military overseas, protects our allies. And the allegation is that there were boxes and boxes full of top secret, classified, confidential information that was left in a ballroom, in a bathroom, in a bedroom, when at a social club, Mar-a-Lago, and were not secure.
What's notable is that the special counsel didn't get into any of the details. Instead, he urged the country to read the document, to read the evidence. The word he used, gravity. There's gravity to this indictment, gravity to the charges facing a former president.
So Sandra Bullock had something to do with this?
Of the United States. You can't read this indictment, and every page seems to mention intelligence potentially being compromised, foreign allies, foreign adversaries, all of this information stuffed away in bathrooms in Florida, in bedrooms. And the special counsel is someone who's in a long line of special counsels in the United States, and past special counsels have been politicized. Think about Ken Starr. Top investigators like Robert Mueller pulled into the riptide of politics by being terse today, by keeping it just to the facts, having a bit of gravity when he used that.
And Ken Starr was completely political, by the way.
Word in talking about how it's important to secure things for the military and intelligence officials. He wants to avoid being politicized by Trump. But good luck with that effort. Trump's already on Truth Social. What's he saying? Jack Smith's wife is, quote, a Trump hater, just as he's a Trump hater. Politics looms over everything here, even if Jack Smith wants.
Here's the Trump indictment count. 1 through 31 is willful retention of national defense information. 32, conspiracy to obstruct justice. 33, withholding a document or record. 34, corruptly concealing a document or record. 35, got your nose. 36, no, I made that up. 35, concealing a document in a federal investigation. 36, scheme to conceal. 30, that's what I do. I turn the lights off before sex. It's like, don't want you to see my nipples. 37, false statements and representations.
Wants to keep this bare bones and by the book.
Catherine Herridge, our senior investigative correspondent, is with us. One of the other noteworthy things, I think, if you read this indictment,
okay, let's hear one more noteworthy,
is the repeated opportunities that Donald Trump, his lawyers, and others had to solve this problem. In May of 2021, so he's just out of the White House, right? You leave the White House in January 2021. The National Archives begins to ask him for these documents that they believe are part of the Presidential Records Act. When you are president, you no longer have access to these classified documents. You can request them, but you're not allowed to have them, and certainly Mar-a-Lago is not a secure facility. So they repeatedly ask. He doesn't turn them over. It becomes an issue. I mean, I can't detail the whole document. I invite people to read it. But again, the obstruction then, not only that he instructs his lawyer to obstruct justice, but also aides within his personal office.
And these aren't just run-of-the-mill documents. Based on the special counsel's indictment, 7 of the U.S. intelligence agencies had information that was impacted by this alleged mishandling of classified information, from the CIA to the spy.
I mean, okay, it's fine. It's a lot more is going to come out. It's a huge. This is a big deal. You know, it would be absolutely amazing if he has to go to prison. I don't know what to, like, the thing I'm thinking here right now is that where it really is going to leap out of, because so many people are just going to accept the narrative that this is just like political witch hunt, they'll say, that Trump is being targeted, the two-tier justice system, it's not fair, it's rules for some others, and Trump has his own special rules because they don't like him, because he's the fighter. I mean, the justice system is an absolute horror towards people as far as its role in our nightmare society of oppressive, you know, racial caste system. So that's obvious. But the stuff that will jump out, though, is if there's transactions that comes out of this, or that he, I mean, if we're accepting the premise that the state should regard these types of things, military secrets, and I know Marjorie Taylor Greene went into a SCIF, which is like a special room where it's secure so that they could look at special documents, and they're supposed to be like a very sacrosanct regard for not revealing what you are seeing. It's like a big deal to like see something in a SCIF. They have them in different government, you know, facilities all over the place. And then she immediately comes out and starts like writing about what was in it or something like that. I don't get all the details. So like almost as if to violate that kind of thing as a way to normalize it too. Because if it just is, well, they don't belong at his house, but who saw them? We don't know. I mean, they weren't held securely. Of course, there's the hypocrisy of him and his followers chanting "lock her up" for Clinton, and the issues with her email server. There's the I think this is true, so forgive me if it's not, but I'm pretty sure Trump, as part of I think it's the second year in, they passed some law, or I don't know if it was legislatively done or executive decision thing, but where they increased the punishment for this kind of stuff from a misdemeanor to a felony. So it's going to raise, it's kind of a delicious irony that he's going to get nabbed for his own thing. Why would you want all that shit is a very good question, though. Like, what the fuck, and what circumstance is it appropriate for that stuff? I don't know what's in it yet. Maybe they're all just newspaper clippings of how amazing he is, and he's just a narcissist who just wants his walls lined with, who wants to wipe his own special butthole with newspaper about himself. Seems like they're probably pretty serious stuff in these boxes. In order to prosecute a president like this is like I doubt they would just do this willy-nilly, which is meaning like it's not like they're just going off of one or two things, I suppose. It has to be kind of overwhelming, unfortunately. So I don't know. Let's just
satellite agencies also.
Right. We'll jump ahead here in case there's some more updates in the news. Let's see what it looks like. This might just be the same baseline shit we've already heard.
Because he has another high-profile probe within his portfolio. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you know, to say the least, he has his hands full. Because we spent all this time talking about this case still looming out there in probably the future weeks, maybe a few months, is the investigation into January 6th. And
this is Jeff Pegwiz. I don't know how to say I'm sorry, Pegues.
President Trump's actions during that period. And so as serious as this case is, and it is serious because remember again, in April, we were talking about the case in New York that Alvin Bragg brought, and we were talking about the seriousness of that case. Well, this is a whole nother ballgame. As your guests have pointed out, this is a 49-page indictment. And as Bob Costa has reported, politics is looming over everything. And that's why you had the special counsel today not saying much. He did not say much for a reason.
We're going to skip ahead to some other
affected
reporter.
this presidency,
Ed O'Keefe.
the current one.
Get it back up to him.
Remembered certainly.
There at the White House. Ed, we have been living in strange times for a while now, but this seems to take it to another level. Give us some greater picture thoughts about how you believe history will record this moment.
Oh, well,
It's already happened on the Winners and Losers show with Hank Thompson. Like and subscribe, patreon.com/winners and losers.
This day will be remembered certainly as a big one because of the revelations in this indictment and the dozens of charges.
It was a big one. William McHenry Tecumseh Sherman Thompson, 1854. That fucking hammering is driving me crazy. I can't take it.
That have been laid out here against the former president. What I think what we can't yet account for is how much that presidency has affected this presidency, the current one, and everything that is done and said by the current president, Joe Biden, who today is in North Carolina for 2 separate events with community college educators and with military families. Twice today, so far at least, he's been asked by reporters about the indictment and has insisted he has no comment. On the second go-around, he was asked specifically if he's talked to the Attorney General at all ever about this case. He said he has not. And we've been told by aides not to expect the president to weigh in on the case later today, either as he leaves North Carolina or tonight when he gets back here to the White House, now that the indictment has been unsealed. That's in keeping with the president's preference to not weigh in on the details of this, understanding, as he has since his election campaign, that he's trying to demonstrate respect for and adherence to the rule of law and the professionalism of the Justice Department, because he argued during his campaign, of course, that Donald Trump and his administration had politicized and influenced unduly the Justice Department. So we know here
that they did. I want this to end, as do you, but I got to do one more. I see we have a round table or some sort of bunch of window boxes of people talking.
And Jeff Pegues and Ed O'Keefe. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
We have a lot more news next, including the closing bell from Wall Street at the top of the hour.
Fuck off with that shit. Including the profit hoarding of the investor class. And are you still going to be able to retire? Better get into the profit system. Okay, good stuff. Well, we did it, guys. We did it. We got him. It's over. America's going to be fine now. I got Cornel West running for president. We're not going to do any more shit, but I did want to talk about that. Maybe Jon Hamm will do a commercial for him. Cornel West. It's not as fun to say as my friend Kunce over here. I'm Jon Hamm. But there's a lot to say about that, I guess. I don't have a ton of strong opinions. I hope the third party candidates are able to raise a lot of hell, I guess, in general. RFK Jr. is a fucking anti-vax quack. So I don't he's my least favorite of the three, setting off my bullshit detectors quite a lot. That guy. All right, well, we're good. Thank you very much for watching. We made it to the end. It's been another over 2 hours, of course. That's fine. I'll probably make some clips out of this thing, and we'll have maybe some new listeners or new subscribers. Or if you made it this far, go on iTunes, leave a review. Apple Podcasts, whatever the fuck. Just 5-star thing, or Patreon if you feel like you'd like to support. Got some interesting stuff coming up too that you'll be interested in hearing about, and I don't know what else to say. I'm gonna probably the video game, do a little Valheim streaming recording. I haven't done that in a little bit while because of Zelda. As far as my time budget for games goes, Zelda and my roommate and I've been playing Zelda. He's like way far ahead though, so it's like spoilery when I watch him play. I'm like, salt. So, great design, well made, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You are now released. You may go about your business. Goodbye. Take care. Sorry everything is so hard. It's fucking hammering.